Hello, everybody. It is me, Pacific, on a Saturday morning, and wow, the wind is blowing so hard. Here in Colorado, we have something called Chinooks. It's where it warms up in the middle of winter, and the wind blows and blows and blows, and yeah, wild. I know it sounds weird, but I like the sound of the wind. Sometimes when I'm driving the bus and I have the window cracked, I like to hear the wind making its noise through the windows, and yes, I have a problem. I hear that wind and I think of being on one of those old ships and hearing the wind whistling through the rigging and feeling it in my hair and hearing the ocean just crash against the hull. I don't know what I'm doing in a landlocked place like Colorado. So I watched a video last night, and one of my viewers on Facebook posted with Aaron Russo, and it's interesting that this gentleman says that feminism was created to destabilize, family and all that. So people might ask, Pacific, what do you believe about American women? Is this a product of social engineering? Can I be honest with you? I don't know. But it's interesting listening to this guy when he talks about the Rockefellers wanting to create a one world monetary system and get everybody to have a chip implanted and no more cash. And I thought, boy, that sure looks like, sounds like, smells like revelation, that you must take the mark, which is symbolized by 666, that people cannot buy or sell without it. Truth be told, we are headed there. And all the atheists and all the naysayers laugh at Christians and go, yeah, whatever, Christianity's a myth, the Bible's fables and fairy tales. Now, is that not the height of ignorance? That people just write off the Bible as fairy tales? And yet we look at what is happening in our society right now. Yesterday, as the teenagers were getting on my bus on one of the not so good routes, several girls walked by me and I said, hello. And they gave me that look with daggers. I said, wow, you guys really got some hate in you, don't you? They didn't say a word. And one of the boys shot out, mister, that's the way all girls are today. They got an attitude, and he used some profanity. And I didn't say a word. And I thought, I'm not the only one who sees this. In my workplace, there are women who think they're pretty and think they're all that, and I look at them and go, okay, I've got to be honest with my viewers. I've looked at women online, yes. I've looked at women in Asia. I've been with a few pretty ladies myself, and the people that I work with, I'm going to be very honest, not one of them is what I would call a 10. Why am I bringing this up? How do women get so puffed up and full of pride and conceit and think that we men can't be rude or mean or demeaning to them, but they can just be twats? I'm sorry to use that word, but just totally rude. That a video that I listened to yesterday by a black man talking about white women and feminism, and he was spot on. And he defined a lady. And somebody, I read one of the comments, said, you are a woman hater. And I, yep. That's the feminist billy club to hit the ball out of the park. But does it hold? Pacific's been accused of women hating. I would rather hang out with a female than an American guy 99% of the time. But as I watch what's happening to American females, I'd rather run for the hills. And I do have lady friends. I have lady friends on my channel. I have friends globally. Women that may not agree with all my views. Women that may not even be Christian. But women who are kind to me. Kind to their husbands. Raise their family. But the black man that did a video on women, who talks about what a lady is, he says, I'm talking about ladies. He says, you don't hit a lady. But he said a lady doesn't yell at a man, and she likes to look pretty, and she likes to wear a dress. Now, people might ask me, Pacific, do you believe it's wrong for a woman to wear jeans and a t-shirt? No, I'm not going to get caught up into that. But there are not a lot of ladies in our culture. That much is a fact. And why is that? Is this a product of social engineering? Well, when you listen to Aaron Russo, a lot of things make a lot of sense. Such as when you could only tax half the populace, and then we encouraged and got women to go to work, well, more taxes go into the government. Does anybody know who the biggest employer is in the United States of America? That's right, Uncle Sam and friends. And you know what? Hold on a second. The wind's blowing so hard, the door's creaking, and yeah, and it's shut. The largest employer is the government. And if social engineering is going on, then it makes me realize women truly are dumb in this country. That they think they're fighting for their rights, and yet they fail to realize they're owned. They're owned by the consumeristic culture. They're owned by the government. And this gentleman makes a point that welfare is not encouraging a man to be involved. It's encouraging the government to be your sugar daddy. And if we look at the last two elections, it's very clear who voted for Obama. It was not hardworking, conservative, God-fearing Americans. It was people who want the government to do everything for them. It's the pot smokers. It's the gays. It's those that promote and believe abortion's okay. It's the minorities that came in here illegally and all that are related to them. I will say one thing that appears to be very evident as more years pass, and that is that somebody's on a destructive mode with this country. That if our politicians and government leaders cannot unanimously unite and see that we have a big problem that's costing us multiple billions of dollars by letting the illegals just walk in from Mexico, and that same government is totally anti-marriage, that a man cannot just go to China or wherever, marry a wife and get her over here rapidly and quickly without a big cost and a lot of paperwork. But yet illegals come in and then we don't kick them out. That young women today can be, sorry to use the word, complete stuck-up bitches, rude to all authority, and that's okay. But if we react in any way that makes their feelings hurt or they get butthurt over it, you're in trouble. That I can work in a break room where women can parade around and walk around and be sexist against us men, dress like sluts and whores. I'm amazed how many young women get hired Hispanic, dressed, very provocative. In the offices, the dress code applies to them as it does us, but nobody says anything about them. And they strut through our break room, and it makes me disgusted. And a lot of women get mad at people like me who call it out. Call us man hate or woman haters. Truth is, I spend probably an inordinate amount of time having interest in women, when in fact sometimes I wish I were more like the nerd or the geek who doesn't even pay them any mind. That I wish I could be like other men who just drown themselves in some hobby and pursuit, and if a woman comes, great. If she doesn't, great. I'm not wired that way. Are we being socially engineered? If you look at the last 8 years of presidency, or 6 years, This is the all-time, hands-down worst president we've ever had, who's shredding our Constitution, who, when the majority of the people have voted in a Senate saying, hey, we're tired of your bill of fare, and he says, I hear you, America, and then he says he's going to veto everything. That most American women today, especially the young ones, they don't give a damn about anybody or anything, but they're addicted to their cell phones, their Facebook, and their, well, Pacific, you're on Facebook, but they live on this. Women have truly been dumbed down in this society when they're so glued to their phones that is their complete life support system. I see it in our break room with the young ladies. They sit at the table, they don't say, hi, how are you, and engage in conversation. I remember when I worked at a place in Duluth, Minnesota years ago, Voyager Bus Company. The young women come in before the cell phones. We get done with our bus routes, and unless they were going to college or were married, we'd sit at the table and talk and play games and interact. I got to be honest, I look back at the early 90s and life was still kind of good. I'd walk down to Lake Superior on a windy day and I'd run into women looking out over that vast body of water, and I'd walk up and say, beautiful out there, isn't it? Oh, yeah. I didn't have a car then, and the weather started to turn. I'd been talking to a woman for about an hour, and she goes, you want a lift? She offered me a ride up the hill to my apartment. I was like, wow, you won't get that today. One of my viewers wrote me a very detailed thing about some woman who was dressed to kill and in an antique store, saw him coming and sticks her butt out and bends over and all this, doing everything she can to get his attention. And he said any man would have jumped at the chance, and she's looking through some stuff outside the antique store going, what should I choose? And making it so obvious that she wants him. And he walks right around her and in the store, and she comes in and starts yelling at him, why aren't you noticing me? I noticed a dynamic with the Hispanic women I work with, and it took me a year to paste all this together. And I am going to drill Hispanic women. I said that in the video I made yesterday. When I talk Hispanic, I'm talking about women with Mexican blood that were pretty much born and raised in the United States. That I'm going to make a bold statement that they are the chief troublemakers in our workplace. Over the white women, over the black women, and we only have one Asian woman. And I started going, what is going on? Let's start looking at this thing. Let's start unpacking it. There are women, they'll come up and be flirty and nice with me, and then they'll pull away and ignore me 2 weeks later. And I finally come to the conclusion Hispanic women cannot be trusted. Stay away from them. I look at the young girls that are Hispanic on my buses. Beautiful long black hair. Everything I loved in the Filipinas. Beautiful curves, pretty girls. And I watch as most of them go down the same road as everybody else. They get pregnant outside of marriage. They become raving biatches. And I think, wow. And I was even talking to a Mexican guy at work about this that I like. And I said, I want you to answer me a question. We were on an excursion, a field trip one day, and we had time to chat. I said, out of all the people groups in America, which group has the biggest problem of family rape, incest, screwing around with their daughter, or uncles or grandpas touching the relative girl? And he looked me right in the eye and says, I'm ashamed to admit it, but my race, the Mexican Hispanic population, are horrible at girl molestation within families. A lot of the Hispanic girls, the word modesty is not part of their vocabulary. And with them, you are going to get drama. Now, Pacific is not racist, but I do talk about things that are absolute fact based on watching. Hispanic women can be often loud. A lot of the ones I work with are covered in tattoos and piercings, and they think they're all that in a bag of chips, and then they've got the gall to make comments about somebody like me or somebody about my hair or this or that. I'm just kind of looking at them. There's one woman I work with who's got some rectangle thing stuck to her lip, some piercing. I'm like, boy, if that doesn't look stupid. But I don't say it. Because if I did, I'd be in trouble. Let me tell you a further reason why I don't think women should belong in the male workplace. Let me tell you what I've observed. A week ago, we had ice all over the place. And I call it our campus. We have a break room across a street, an avenue. We have all the mechanic shops, and in the maintenance department, the custodian department. The place is huge, where they fix the buses and the fleet vehicles. And then you come over to our area where there's the employee parking lot, the break room, human resources, and the managers and routers and transportation specialists. And in the break room with all of us drivers and paraprofessionals. And then you go across that parking lot, across another avenue or a street, and go down a set of stairs down to a huge lot with buses. And we've got several lots, but we've got the one big one. And one day we had melting during the evening, refreeze, and then started to melt again. People got to work, and the parking lot was a skating rink. The boss came in and had an impromptu meeting and said, I want to apologize about this morning. I know it was rough. We called the maintenance department. The maintenance department had actually called the sander units for our district and said that neither of the trucks could start, so we were behind the 8 ball to begin with. One Hispanic woman stood up and started saying, we got to come here, and this is a danger to us, and this is an unsafe environment. And, last year I slipped and fell, and you saw me. I had to file papers and be embarrassed for months. My personal, she milked it. She had told me she didn't like getting out there and driving and was sick of it. But she went on and on and on, even after the boss said, well, the sanding trucks couldn't start. And she continued to carry on, wanted to be heard and loud. And this just isn't fair. This just isn't right. And then woman after woman started piping up and complaining. Not one complaint was issued by a man. Not one. I went down to my bus, and another big gentleman was getting in his bus next to me. I opened my window. I said, man, did you hear all that bitching in the break room? And he looked at me and he says, this is the problem when you have a bunch of damn women in here, and all you do is hear a bunch of whining and drama and complaining. I said, I lived in northern Minnesota and worked for a bus company where they had 100 buses. We had no sand on our lot all year. There was glare ice most of the months of winter. And it was slick. I remember walking out 25 below, and it was sheen ice across that lot. And I remember one of the girls said, there could be a lawsuit. This is Duluth. Deal with it. Do you notice that men tend to put up with things a little better? That I just realized this is the hazards of the job. Watch your step. But I've noticed something about women. They'll walk down the stairs, they turn all the way around, look at each other, and oh my gosh. And then they start screaming how unsafe it is. Well, if you'd have watched where you were going. The other act I've seen is women hold a cigarette in one hand, a cup of coffee in another, and their purse and all their saddlebags, and they're trying to navigate across ice. Pacific knows. The minute I hit that ground, I'm walking as careful as I can, and I walk fast, but not on that stuff. I walk in, they were complaining about walking in between the buses, that you could slip under the buses. I understand that. Pacific, as I'm aging, my views are starting to change. I never thought that's possible. Never thought it's possible. And they're starting to change to become more in accordance with the Ancient of Days. God, Jehovah, Christ the Lord. I'm watching. You put women in cars, they drive like idiots. Women are just as aggressive, if not more aggressive than men. And I will tell you hands down in Metro Denver, and I've talked to other drivers about this, women are less likely to let us in traffic than men. I will have a man flash his high beams letting me merge over onto the freeway, whatever, but not women. Fox News had a report a couple of years ago that most of the accidents were caused from 19 to 25-year-old women texting and driving. When I was a kid, insurance rates were lower for a teenage girl getting her learner's permit to drive, than they are for a male teen. They said they were safer drivers. Ride with me and I will tell you, not so. Women tend to be more passive-aggressive than men. Women tend to project more than men. Women tend to create more drama than men. And what is the common denominator of all of this? Because women operate on feelings, nothing more than feelings. And I want to say something. I was accused by an ex-wife of 14 years of being harsh. Let me define that. I kept our house clean. I managed the finances we had. I tried to discipline my son the way I thought was best, never abused him. I ran a tight ship. When you have women that have been empowered by the monstrous teaching of feminism today, no marriage is going to work with a man who tries to be a man. I came to work yesterday and I brought a calendar. It was last year's. It was outhouses because it was an old one and he had one. One of his daughters gives him an outhouse calendar every year. Outhouses around the world. It's kind of funny. Real pictures of outhouses. Austria, Norway, the U.S., the half moon with the heart symbol on the door. That, by the way, is for ventilation and to let a little light in there. I remember when I went to a place called Earth Camp 1 for a month as a kid in the Mount Shasta Wilderness. And they had what was called a privy, big outhouse up these steps, pretty luxuriously appointed, but it was a privy. And we used to joke about it. We had the regular toilets, but then there was a privy by the cabins. I brought that to work as a spoof on one of the guys I work with. I said, here, I wanted to get this to you as a gift. You kind of reminded me of you. I was like, gee, thanks. And the guys all passed around and thought it was funny. And a few of the women walked around and thought it was funny. But I've noticed something in that workplace. Because of women in the workplace, men have had to change, back up, and completely transmogrify themselves into something that's not natural for them. Now, I admit, when we talk about men and marriages, that men, by the grace of God, have to learn how to relate to ladies in a Christian fashion. I understand all that. But it is my opinion that a workplace is a man's world, and women should not be in it. I watch what happens with all the belly aching in the break room that day, that women after women are complaining and whining and fussing and going on and on and on, even after the boss said, and I finally at some point said, did you hear what the boss said? The Sandra trucks couldn't start. You know, it was one of the days where the worst of situations came together at the same time. Deal with it. The boss said she's aware of it. The boss says she's going to make sure this doesn't happen again. I mean, cut her some slack. But no. It becomes a bitch session. Some of the guys come by, I'm sitting in my chair, and one guy comes over and deliberately kicks my chair and pretends to trip over it. I'm like, wow, you learned how to walk. And we joke with each other. You don't do that stuff with a woman. With women in the workplace, you don't even have to joke around. You can do something totally unintentional and be called into the office. By the way, the woman that was all about that bass, no treble, that was in the way, didn't complain. But we have women that deliberately set up situations. I'm going to tell you a true story from my childhood, and this is the dead honest deal. Lived at 2200 Iron Springs Road. I don't know if you can Google that. Prescott, Arizona. Neat old 40s house with an addition and nice acre and an eighth of property. Had a garage out in the side yard. Or you go up a long driveway, and the garage was off to the right and the house was off to the left. Attached to the garage is what I called a lawnmower shed, but it was substantially built. Concrete pad, 2x4s, and the joist and the sloped roof tying into the brick, the cinder block wall of the garage, actually. And that was my bedroom. My mom didn't want me in the house. And at first I hated it. I thought, wow, that's rude. Then I started going, wow, I can play my music up, stay up late. There's no window on the front of my place facing the house. You'll never know. This is awesome. But I still had to come in early a.m. and go to the kitchen and fix my breakfast and wash up in the bathroom in there. My mother, because of her lovely, romantically filled relationship with her husband, would sleep on the couch in the living room while Dad slept in the master bedroom. There was a open curio shelf wall that went between the kitchen and the dining room and the living room. You step down 2 steps and it had the wood stove and all that. And I'd go in the kitchen. I'd turn on only the stove light, so it's minimal light. And I'd always have to get my pot to fix my oatmeal or get a pan to fry an egg, whatever. I would be so careful. I open the bottom cupboard door down by the floor, open it, and I go to move, and all the heavy stuff, of course, is stacked on the one thing you need, and I'm gently moving, and one pot will go tink, and I'd hear, what are you doing, Michael? I'm trying to make my breakfast. Well, hurry up. I'm trying to move as fast as I can. Well, just get it done. This happened all the time when I went in there. People don't realize this. But as a young man growing up, women have incredible power even over us males. And I started walking on eggshells. And I've done that most of my life. Been so afraid of offending people. I think my viewers need to know this. You think, my gosh, I love Pacific. He's got the balls to say this. I didn't always. Making breakfast in the morning, Monday through Friday, I had to get up extra early because I had cross-country practice or track practice in the winter. I had to get on my bicycle and ride the 2 miles to school. And there was my workout right there, and then we ran in the halls. We were there before any of the students, and we went to the gym, put on our outfits, and ran the halls. We were all indoor hallways. School was a big square. We would shower, get done in time to walk the halls with our buddies, and then go to class. I was a responsible guy. I got my studies done, no help to them. Made my own breakfast, and I was off and running. Quiet as a mouse. I didn't come on and turn on the TV or lights. My mother didn't even have the TV going. And with that all going, and she sound asleep, but then she'd hear one little tink in the kitchen, and it set her off. I'm going to say something, and I'm going to say something bold, even if she was listening to this video right now. I don't care. That was ridiculous. That there is abuse of males. That women that have been put in charge of us boys growing up did a lot of damage. I'm not walking around playing the victim. But those things still lie within me. I'm not into confrontation. Many of you watch my videos and think, oh, this guy's confrontational. It's only as years go by of being conditioned and groomed by such behaviors that then the giant leap that changed everything was me going to Hong Kong. And it was only then that I woke up to the reality of American women and what feminism has done to them. I love it when women throw back, well, you're against oppression to women. No, I'm not. But tell me, women, what good did it do that women are now going to work and they're paying taxes and supporting an overburdened government that's growing out of control by the day? See, most American women aren't smart enough, don't have enough discernment to look at what's going on. That the government is comfortable with you buying your materialistic, closeted shopping addiction. They love that because they're making money off of those taxes. It does seem like our American society has pit people against God's values and against one another. That God created man and women and the sexes are against each other. That in America, that we've truly homogenized down to kind of just the same thing. Look at stores. Look at Dayton Hudson Corporation and Target. Look at Walmart and look at what we get thrown at us. You can't buy exciting shirts at Walmart or Target. You can't buy exciting anything at Walmart. I go get my groceries. I go get things I need. But you look at the shopping commercial retail industry and it is not passionate. I've said it and I'll say it again. Most American white women dress dowdy and boring and blasé as can get. And then you go to Asia and they wear colors and intricate designs and they look beautiful. That American women are caught up in SUVs. I remember when I was a kid that women did not drive pickup trucks. That was for the man. The women in our family did because the man went to work and the man took the car downtown LA. My aunt and my mother both drove the camper truck. But my mother does not submit to her husband. My mother modeled before my sister and I not a good example of love in action at all with regards to her husband. Making him sleep in a separate room, making fun of his missing teeth and the way he breathed and eat and the way he sounded, putting him down at all turns. When he'd try to hug her, she'd push him away. And I've noticed the woman that I played cards with, the Jehovah's Witness, always scolding. And I thought Beth was like that. My mother was like that. That women, they cannot exist without some sort of a push-pull thing going on with a guy. They got to have some drama. They got to create some friction. I was reflecting yesterday. I had some downtime and I laid across the seats on my bus. I was so tired and I just took some cat naps. But I was sitting there thinking about how I actually had some fun in the chat rooms in Yahoo because, you know, we males are designed to fight or flight. And we'd get into debates, and some people were just so awful in there that I learned to have put-downs. And I'm not saying that's Christ-like, but if you can be appropriate about it, you can have some fun. And one day there was an all-out fight going on with the regulars. We called them regs. And I come in there, and I'm like, you know, and I made another ID called poopy_nasty_diaper. At yahoo.com. So I come in the chat room, poopy nasty diaper, and immediately somebody gets on the look at this. Poopy nasty diaper just came in. And I held that mic down and I said, I'm here and I'm tired of this. And I'm going to make it stinky now. People were laughing. People were getting angry at me. Some were laughing. People were messaging me going, I love it. Keep doing it. Keep putting the boot in. Keep putting the boot in. I admit, I had fun in that. But I don't like fighting with women. I don't like that. I watch women. And without being too personal, because You just have to be careful. I watch women pick at their husbands over stupid stuff. Why are you eating that? Because I like it. It's not good for you. Neither is the stress you're causing, lady. Guy's 80-something years old and you're picking at something over there and causing his stress rate and blood pressure to go up. Did you ever think about that? I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to admit to something right here before all of my viewers, because I've watched our society, and I've gotten on Craigslist sometimes, and I'll see these women and their stupid ads. Women seeking women, women seeking strictly platonic, and I see some of their stuff, and there are times I sent them a topless picture of a woman that says, "Oh, I'd love to be your workout buddy." I've done it. I've done it just to mess with people, because it's like, man, you know, these people need their cage rattled. The responses I've gotten have been very interesting. Women will always respond to women responding. Always. Women love the power they have over us men. And I'm going to say something. Our society of women really is messed up. They dress provocative. They parade around in our break room. They flirt with us. And then when you try to be nice and start warming up to them, then they pull away and ignore you for 3, 4, or 5 weeks. And then out of the blue, "Hi, Mike, how are you? You never talk to me." And I've got more bold. I said, "Never talk to you." I said, "You just suddenly became cold." I said, "I figured, hey, you want to ignore me? Okay." And then they play dumb, like, "Really? You think I'm doing that?" I think a man's place should be his job. I think a woman's place should be her home. And I think women, instead of dyeing their hair and being stupid and spending all this money on makeup and shopping malls, should start trying to please their husbands instead of competing against other women. I talk to more men that go, "Oh, my wife dyed her hair. She chopped it all off. She looks horrible." And I said, "Why don't you please me?" "Well, you know, we got to look a certain way in front of other women." What are you, lesbian? I'm sorry, but that is truth. And then there was somebody on The View the other day, a woman who had sagging breasts, no bra, some brunette woman who was playing in the break room. I don't watch The View. It's stupid. And she thought she was all that in a bag of chips, white woman. I made a comment to the gal I was playing cards with, and I said, "You know what? That woman needs to cover it up." I said, "She's too old to be showing all that cleavage and sagging and bagging like that." And she goes, "Well," she goes, "you might want to think about something. She's on that show, so that must mean she's good looking." I said, "So you're telling me because somebody's on The View that defines?" "Well, you're not on there." I said, "That show wouldn't have me on there." And then she went into this big dissertation. "Somebody might not like that chain around your neck." I said, "That chain is not me showing my breasts, okay? If they don't like my chain." She went on saying, "Well, she may be pretty to somebody else." I said, "I understand that. I'm just saying from a modest standpoint," and this is a Jehovah's Witness. I want to say something else about Jehovah's Witnesses that my viewers need to not forget. If Jehovah's Witnesses are really Christians, how come they've never come and said, "Hey, can we start our day with prayer together?" They'll never offer that. They don't. They ever come up and encourage me? Do you notice they don't call me brother or sister? We've got enough damning evidence that the Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult. Is a cult, of course, unless you're a cult, of course. But then I went into the restroom, and one of the Hispanic guys said, "Hey, how you doing?" We're washing our hands at the sink and stuff, and he said, "What are you doing this weekend?" I said, "Not much." He says, "You're not going out?" He says, "I thought you had a girlfriend." I said, "No." And I said, "You know, it's been tough in Denver." And he chuckled, and he says, "Yeah, the women at my table said, you know, he'd get a date if he did something with his hair." And I said, "Are they interested in me?" "Who said that?" He says, "I'm not going to tell you who said that." He says, "They said that." And I said, You know what? When I had my hair cut off, they weren't coming after me. He says, I don't got anything about your hair. But he said they were all saying that. And I said, you know, none of these women in this break room look my way. I said, look at who they're looking at. And he says, no, I know that. He says, I don't have a problem. He's somewhat overweight, and he wears thick glasses, the black frame ones. His are more round. But it's different with the Hispanic community. Hispanics attract each other easily. But when you're in a city where the percentage just in Denver Public Schools is 58% Hispanic, and I want to touch on that. The Hispanic population is doing the same thing that they accuse the whites of. They're getting the jobs in the city and county of Denver. They're getting the jobs in the sanitation department. And you ought to see how they drive those garbage trucks in the city of Denver. They'll pull out of those alleys right in front of traffic. I told you the story when I was working with the Korean gal, and we had put some stuff at the lady's request in the back alley. And we were moving it and sorting it, and the trash truck came blazing through there, and I was trying to move it out of the way. They drove right through and hit everything right in front of me. And I said, what are you doing? Mexican guys yelling and getting in my face, unprofessional. I called the city and said, you'd better do something about this. They ran over her TV set, ran over all the stuff, and smashed it all up. And I looked at them. I said, do you guys know that, did you not see me trying to, well, we got the right of way in the alley. I said, you don't have the right of way to hit stuff. And then this guy says to me, he says, well, this is the United States, buddy. I said, yeah, it's the United States. I said, what are you doing? The guys were rude, unprofessional. I wrote the number of the truck down. The gal I was with was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just did that. I did call. And I talked to the guy, and he says, oh, I definitely dealt with that. But when I call the city of Denver, a lot of Hispanics there. And I'm going to say something that the Hispanic community is not going to want to hear. But in Tucson, Arizona, there's a CD laying on the break room table, and I picked it up and looked at it. And it was a CD about the multicultural education that is catered more to an ethnicity. They said they've done an experiment with Hispanic kids and said when they teach stuff that's only relevant to them and their thing, their grades are better. The CD was about how Americans said that this is anti-American and it's turning them against white people and our history. By the way, that is truth. I'm sorry, but Hispanics are not interested in hearing about the Pilgrims, and they're not interested in hearing about Thomas Jefferson and the white founding fathers of America. And more of the city and county of Denver, and Denver is being taken over by Hispanics. And I'm going to tell you, and I will go on record on national TV if it came to it, Hispanics are showing a huge amount of racism. The comment is being made amongst more white people that I work with. It was just made by a guy as he tries to be nice to everybody. He said, it is my opinion and my observation that the racism is being generated more by the minorities than it is the white people. I agree, hands down. Excuse me, the Hispanic community in Denver, in a collective fashion, in my opinion, sucks. I'm not saying I don't get along with Hispanic males, but the females, I don't trust them as far as I can throw. I will be nice to them, but inside there's that warning that says, don't tell them too much. Don't get cozy with them. I've watched what they've done in the break room. They'll cozy up to you, get information from you, and then go blah, 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 blah to everybody and cause problems. Very, very, very notorious for that. I can't believe how many trashy women I work with. Ghetto trashy women that think they're all that in a bag of chips. They walk in with complete exuded arrogance and confidence every day. I look at them, I'm like, they're not attractive. Their physique is disgusting. Their manner of dress is poor. Their affect sucks. And yet they get boyfriend after boyfriend after boyfriend after boyfriend. One of them is very trashy. The boyfriend paid for a trip for them to go to the Caribbean and then engaged to her. I was like, Pacific can't even get a date with a reasonably attractive woman. Well, no, I did get a date with a reasonably attractive Latvian woman. That was a freaking joke. And these Hispanics have no shortage of guys that'll paw after them, even though they're fat, tattoos, a rectangle thing stuck to their lip. And those same people will make stabs and comments at me. One woman who's very fat, very overweight, arms this big around, a butt this wide, short. She's got long, beautiful black hair, but she's got double chins going on, and she comes in the break room one day and says, "Oh, I just need to get effed so bad." And black men go after her, and Hispanic men go after her. We have a woman, and I'm not going to say the position, but she's in a position down there who has gone through the mechanic shop. Was married to one person in a high up position that was a super over me in the 90s and is now involved with one of the head guys. And the talk that has gone through there is that she has slept around. I take one look at her. She is not attractive at all. You know, when she stands up and this area here is pooched out, she's rude to me. And I've started talking to several people. I said, "Do you notice these Hispanic women are rude to us white guys? Do you notice that?" And they've all said, "Yes, I do." Even white management looks the other way. There's a woman there who's a secretary. She is not pretty. She is rude as they come. And she's rude anytime any of us have to ask her a question. And believe me, I've had female drivers, white female drivers, tell me, "I will not even go back there." And I raised my hand at in-service when the human resources guy was talking about, HR was talking about harassment in the workplace. And I said, "I want to know why it is that some people in the office positions are rude to us when we got to ask them a simple question. Their tone is awful. Their body language is awful. They're unprofessional." And this goes on. And I've gone to management over them, and I'm told, "Well, that's just the way they are. But if you knew how hard they worked." I said, "Why is that not dealt with?" His comment to me in front of a room of several hundred people was laughable. Well, when that happens, you go to your supervisor. "Did you not hear what I just said? I have done that." I didn't even offer that. He said, "Nobody should have to walk on eggshells with people in the offices." I had several drivers come up to me on our toilet break, said, "I'm glad you asked that." Hispanic women get away with murder in the workplace because if you press in on them as a white guy, and I'm going to say it, you're the bad one. We have made things so sensitized that a white man now has been stripped of his rights. Where I work, we have more relatives and who you knows all installed in places, and you can't get rid of them at all. Why do I mention this? Because discrimination is going on, and I'm tired of the word racism used as a billy club every time a white male opens his mouth. White men have been pushed into the corner. Even the tenant next door works at an insurance office nearby, and she's white. She said the most discriminated person in the United States is the white male. Sorry about clearing my throat. This is not something that can be ignored. Against the backdrop, I go to work every day realizing that, and I feel a sense of neurosis. Gotta watch what I say and how I'm in the break room. That women can stand in the way and you say, excuse me, and they won't move. We have one woman who sells food, doesn't have a license as far as I know. She's allowed to do it. I don't patronize her at all. I don't like her. She's rude. She's a snake behind people's backs. The people she hangs out with tell all that you need to know. Birds of a feather, pigeon together. Ooh, ooh. I've tried to be nice to people. I've tried to be open-minded, and since I've come back, I'm going to say something. I'm not racist, but I am getting a chip on my shoulder towards Denver Hispanics. I'm starting to go, they're a problem. They're drama, they're trouble, they're untrustworthy. And they get away with murder. There are many drivers that see how management sidesteps and tiptoes around the tulips with certain key alpha female individuals that should have been fired a long time ago. If I were to sit here and tell you factual, true stories of certain people in that break room, things that they've gotten fired for in other departments, things they've gotten in trouble for, and they're still there. And they still offend people and still do things. And I've watched white men who've done way less. Without any explanation, anything, just said, you're no longer needed. I can't tell you how many places I've gone into in Denver where there's a Hispanic woman at the front counter and she is just overtly rude. But a Hispanic woman will walk in, oh, hi, how are you? Wow. So back to my premise. Are we being socially engineered? You better believe it. When Barack Obama is soft on illegal immigration, when he's letting all this happen, Barack Obama loves anything that kicks the white man in the groin. I'm going to say it. The minorities aren't minorities anymore. And I'm going to say something about Asians here. Asians got their problems, but they generally hole up in their neighborhoods, open their shops. White man goes in and buys there, eats there. Everything's okay. And yes, in Denver, you can eat at the Hispanic and Mexican restaurants and all that. But when it comes down to it, Hispanics are number one in promoting the racism. Blacks are somewhere out there too. In fact, they're fairly equal for causing the racial strife that goes on in our country. I know that there's white people that are racist. We know that. But they beat on that drum and beat on that drum and beat on that drum. Martin Luther King Day at one of the high schools, they still show over 50 years old video of the white man spraying the black people down with fire hoses. Why is public education allowed to do that? That does nothing in healing the divide. In fact, it inflames it more. I can't tell you how many times I've had black women approach my boss. How come you didn't wait for us yesterday? I was here at this time. This is what time the route sheet says. I have to leave. And I didn't even see you guys. And I called it in on the radio. Yeah, but you were late the other day. I was late because I was held up by a freight train, and the only way to get here is to cross those tracks. That is not something I can control. But I've got to be on time for the route. Why is it the school called minorities that everything we do has to go under a courtroom interrogation about, are you sure you're doing things fair? Are you against me? Are you racist? Give me a break, lady. I'm driving a freaking school bus. And I bid on the route I want. If I didn't like black people, I wouldn't drive in the east side. If I hated Mexicans, I wouldn't bid routes on the west side. And if I didn't like Asians, I wouldn't be on the southwest side. Pull your head out of your butt. Get your kid out here on time and worry about what you're supposed to be doing that's right before you start crying racist foul on me. You viewers have no idea the dynamic we deal with on a regular basis. I had this in Spokane. I had one black student. He was a complete punk. Glover Middle School. This kid was a mouth every day. Rude. I had to move him to the front. The one black kid on an all-white bus who thought because he's black, he got special privileges, and because I'm a white driver, everything I did was unfair, unfair, unfair. I went to my supervisor at the lousy bus company I work for in Spokane. And I'm going to say it. The contract school bus company that I work for in Spokane was absolutely horrible to the drivers. $10.50 an hour, 4-hour guarantee a day. The boss was a big fat man with an attitude, and he hated me for some reason. Didn't matter that I came to work on time, kept my bus spiffy, spotless, clean, did my routes, but this middle school was a problem. The principal didn't do anything about it. He'd have them come and clean lunch trays. He wouldn't suspend them off the bus. I went to my supervisor and brought up this black kid. I said, this kid is rude. Watch the video. Even one of my other supervisors came out, a white guy, and met me at the school, and he looked right down, calling my name. He says, what is your problem? And he laughs. He says, I got mommy issues. He says, well, you know what? You need to get over it. People that knew me defended me. But one black kid held that whole thing hostage. And 2 days before school got out, he walks down the aisle and he says, I just wanted to say, shut the F up and all this crap. And as he walked down the stairs, I said, don't even get on my bus tomorrow. And he yelled, F you. I went back and told the supervisors, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Tomorrow's the last day of school. I said, there is something you can do about it. You can write it up and tell the principal he's denied transportation. That would teach him a lesson. And this is what I was told by the supervisor. We're a contract company. The schools choose what they're going to do for discipline, not us. If we offend the school district, they could pull our contract. And I said, so in other words, because of profit, the drivers are thrown under the bus. And he said, well, they are the customer. I said, so we got a kid talking to me in an abusive fashion. That is verbal abuse. What would you do if he hit me? Well, he'd be off the bus. And I said, oh, but what are we doing to keep that from happening? Well, I wouldn't worry about it. If he hits you, he's off the bus. No, but we're going to let the situation happen. I'm going to say something to my viewers. I kid you not. I told that company I will not be back next year. Oh, but you're a good driver. I know I'm a good driver. But I'm not putting up with kids ruling over us. I kid you not. I wanted to go to that kid's house, knock on the door, and tell that mother, you know, you need to know something. I didn't, because you can't do that. I admit, I thought if I was ever driving my truck around, I saw him on the street, I would pull over and say, let me tell you something, you little mouth. You're all tough on my bus, but out here things change. I didn't do that. I knew exactly where he lived. Why am I talking about this? Because our society is favoring those kinds of people. Our society is encouraging women to be in our face and accuse us of harassment and sexual this and that while they dress like sluts and whores and do their drama and games in the workplace and all through our society. Women becoming pastors and having authority over men, which is totally unbiblical. But Joyce Myers doesn't know the first thing about what biblical means. That a black woman can sit there and tell me, well, she's on The View. You're not there. Oh, so that's the definition, that therefore she's got something? Let me say something from Pacific's perspective. Most of the people on The View, their lives amount to the chaff when wheat is threshed. That if you go like this, it just goes, and it's gone. That we have a media system set up that set themselves up as the determiners of what's important, what's in vogue. Have you ever seen the Hollywood runway models? Any of you guys, any of you women, and seen the things they're wearing, and you think, who would wear that? And I'm sorry, but a lot of women's fashion is a joke. Bizarre looking, strange looking, but because some boobs are showing, guys will look the other way on the weirdness of the outfit. And I started reflecting on my own deficiency as a man, and I'm going to talk to us men here. The power of a good-looking woman is blinding to us. That we react first and think later. Or, should I say in my case, lick our wounds later. There are pictures I have as screensavers. Right now, it's a tropical paradise. There's other times where a woman whose bra strap is hanging off her shoulder, or, some women with no bra underneath and things are poking through. And I admit, I like to look at that. But as I've gotten older, I look at some of these women with their fawn-like eyes and their beautiful features and go, and yet, that woman can bring you to your knees. And no, I'm not thinking like that, guys. She'll destroy you, crush you, steal everything you have, tie you up in the courts. It is amazing the power a woman has. White men have been castrated in this society, and an increasing number of black males also. And I'm going to say something bold. I don't like a lot of Hispanic women. There are some that are nice to me, but I'm leery of them. They only want to date their own or the blacks. The body language, the way they carry themselves, it is obvious that they're racist. Why is a white man so beat up? I'm just a bus driver. Why am I hated because of my skin color? How come that's tolerated in our society? We talk about equality, and we're not seeing that anymore. Go to places in the United States where the predominant populace is Hispanic and go as a white man and try to get a job in there. Good luck. You bet they're discriminating, and the ACLU doesn't utter a whimper. I laugh at people like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. They live in their little cloistered, expensive enclaves. They don't live in the ghetto, and yet they want to represent the ghetto people. Jesse Jackson would never represent white me, even if there was a definite injustice. Jesse Jackson is not a Christian. Let me make that crystal clear. By their fruits you shall know him. The guy is a devil. Al Sharpton, same thing. We voted in a president not on logical common sense at all. We did not vote in a president on cerebral thinking. We voted on a president on his skin color and on favoring stuff that is immoral, favoring stuff that's anti-family, favoring stuff that is destroying the backbone of this country. Barack Obama is a whore of a politician just like most others. He wants to curry favor with the illegal population to curry votes from the Hispanic community. That sounds like a real ethical platform to run on. I'm going to say it again. The U.S. can solve its problems, and the fact that we're not solving the problems leads me to believe that there's an agenda that we don't want to solve the problems. That the problems that do exist, that the conservatives addressed, are used at a billy club to make the conservatives look bad. Pacific's stance on illegal immigration is as follows, and I will never apologize for it. Shut down our U.S. military bases overseas, all of them. Put some of those servicemen down on every square inch of that border through Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. And tell the Mexican government, effective in 30 days, we will shoot anybody who crosses illegally. And if they still get through and we catch them, they will be deported at your expense. You will provide drivers on the border, and you will pay all expenses, and you will mount a debt that will be owed to the U.S. government. And if you don't pay it, we'll start taking some of your land. I'm tired of it. The fact we don't do the hard thing we need to do and are soft on that proves there's an agenda to destroy this country. Call me a radical. Yeah, but what if they're children crossing? Well, that's up to the adults. Why are children crossing the border without their parents? Watch what happens when an American stumbles into Iran. Beheading anybody? The problem with America is we don't want to offend the offenders, but we want to offend the good people. We want to offend a guy like me who's white, who's no threat to any of this Hispanic community or black community, and yet I'm the vilified, demonized white male. A guy who's been through my own cargo load of shite in my life. I saw favoritism growing up. It's so clearly evident that the mother who adopted me had more familial and more love and more favoritism towards the natural-born daughter. Everybody in the family could see it, not just me. That when I had a discussion back in the 80s with my mother, I said, this Mormonism is wrong. I said, they deny the Trinity. And even my mother says, the Trinity? That's kind of like a cardinal doctrine. I said, not with the Mormon church it isn't. But because that's her daughter, we don't want to offend daughter. But then as a young guy who had just become a Christian, she would compare me to people like Jimmy Swaggart. I'm like, Jimmy Swaggart? I don't even agree with that guy. I would go over and visit my mother. I lived in Prescott, and I would go over on my bicycle just to visit her. I wouldn't bring up one word about Christianity, religion, nothing, and my mother would launch into it every time. You know, I know you're one of those Christians, and I know that you're very intolerant. What do you mean you know that I'm intolerant? How do you know that? She'd do baiting conversations. Women, by the way, are very good at that kind of stuff. Baseless charges. You never say hi to me. You started ignoring me 2 months ago. That's why. What? Yeah, don't play dumb. Get away from me. I'm here to do my job. Don't tangle me up in your little vortex of destruction to get me fired. I'm telling you guys, watch it. Men are screwed because we're easily manipulated. We're easily moved by pretty. And I'm going to say something that's just not really cool, but it's true. Don't be deceived by the power of vagina. Don't do it. What are you saying, Pacific? I'm saying that women have an incredible pull on us because of their looks. And they know how to work it. Be aware of that. I watched the favoritism all my life my mother showed towards her natural born. Let me give you some examples. When I was a kid, my sister and I were acting up. Why can't you be like your sister? She's a teller at the Bank of America at 16 years old. She got good grades. She's got boyfriends and girlfriends, and she does really well. Well, la-di-da, I'm not oldest daughter. Oldest daughter's not out shoveling 500 tons of snow all winter. She's not even lifting a shovel. Oldest daughter doesn't have the energy level or the DNA that I have. And that is one of the biggest problems. And I'm going to say it in white culture. This is a fault of white culture. If you're not just like everybody else in a corporate group setting, there must be something wrong with you. How many kids have gone through that backwash? I'm not just like you. Number one, I was adopted. I don't have your DNA. Look at the color of my hair. Look at my energy level. Look at my thought process. I want to tell you something. That an effective and wise parent doesn't make their kid into the protege of what they themselves did not become. That's wrong. But a wise parent looks at their kid and sees the way their bent is and the way they are and channels them in a direction that's going to be productive for that individual, even if his interests are nothing like yours. You may be into antiques, but if your kid doesn't get into them, give it up. You may be into NFL and NBA and all that other stuff, but if your kid's not into sports, don't put that trip on him or her. Stop living out the dreams you didn't accomplish through your kid. That's wrong. Example number 2. You never compare your kids with the other sibling. You don't pit children against children. That's not family. That's not unity. That's a house divided. I watched my oldest sister, the one that's so noble, so worthy, stab us in the back and lie and deceit over and over, and still to this day does it. And it would make sense why she went in the Mormon church. The Mormon church is all built on lies, so liars go where lies proliferate. I am going to say that. But let me add something else. I moved to Duluth in 1989 and moved out in 94 for 6 months, and then moved back out because I did a stint running a troubled respite home in Akron, Ohio for 6 months, but moved out in all intents and purposes in 95. And then, when I was married, lived for 2 years in Virginia, Minnesota. So a total of 7 years in Minnesota. My parents never came out to visit us or visit me when I was a single guy for 5 years. Never came up to see us with a home that we owned for 2 years. The tire tracks in the Los Angeles asphalt hadn't even disappeared. And my mother was on a flight to Minneapolis or St. Paul to see the natural born and spend a week there, and brought the lady cousins and grandma and everybody. And I addressed all that in a letter when my mother was on one of her rampages with me and calling me mentally ill. I said, you never even came and visited me, but so-and-so moves there and you're right there. Her response to that was, well, you didn't live in a house. Really? Well, what about the 2 years I did? I'm going to say something, viewers. Blood is thicker than water, and I thank God for the blood of Jesus, because his blood bought me. Blood is thicker than water. That's why I love my son. He's not adopted. I used to call him when he's little, I said, you're my seed. He's cute terms. I had a precious moment. I couldn't sleep. The house next door is so close to the street. The traffic is loud. And back then they had all those morons with their ghetto music and that loud bass. And it just was deafening. So I went into the walk-in closet because the ex had so many clothes in there. It was like sound barrier. And then I laid on the floor, put my bedding down there, and just one morning I was stirring and I heard my son's door open and he comes crawling in and snuggles up right behind me. I wanted to cry. That went through my head yesterday, and I said, you know, God, it sucks when we make decisions without thinking them through, and then you end up having a kid who's caught in the middle, and I feel for that. And my son now is hostile. Doesn't want to see me hostile, acting out, taking an axe to a fridge, going crazy. And he doesn't realize I love him, but he doesn't also realize that his own mother is creating the problem, has created the monster that she's now living with. But I know I was adopted. And then as a teenager, hearing my mother say, well, you should try to find your real parents. And why is that, Mom? And then my mother telling me, well, we never bonded. I want to say something to my viewers. This is Rocket Science 101. This is deep stuff. This is stuff you need a high qualified degree for that even Princeton and Yale can't offer. That when you, as a woman who's supposed to be nurturing to a child, are blowing cigarette smoke in his face, putting him down, reacting completely hostile to his energy level and his manner of way that is so contrary to yours, and putting him down in front of the relatives and getting on the phone and saying, "Oh, Michael's at it again." And what was I at it again? I didn't even do anything. My mother started some fracas with me. I tried to stand up in my puny way and said, "No, that's not true." Everything blamed on a corn allergy. My mother was not a peaceful woman, is not a woman of peace. She's an unhappy, miserable woman who spent most of her life trying to fill the hole with stuff. Now it's religion. She doesn't know the first thing about biblical Christianity and never will. And she creates an environment that pushes and pushes. When we drive to LA, we drove in separate cars. I didn't want to be around my dad. I wanted to be with my mother. Yeah. I'm going to share something with you. Don't take this the wrong way. My mom wouldn't let me ride in the car with her. You go with your dad. My mother failed to see that I was clinging to her, that I wanted her. And the only time my mother warmed up to me is when she had put her husband out of the house and he moved into a different apartment, and she said, "I'm thinking about moving to Bishop and want to know if you want to live with me because you know how to do things and you could help me fix up the house." And I was thinking, yeah. And then my dad using me as a pawn. "You're not going to be a mommy's boy. You're not living with her." And back and forth. I spent a day on a weekend, snow, cutting through the woods between the shoe store where my mother worked and the house where my dad and I were living. And my mother had me deliver a note to my dad. And then I had to go back and deliver a note, and it went back and forth. Finally, my dad said, "This is nonsense." I look at what my ex is doing to my son, and everything's blamed on me. And it's like, where were the people, the advocates, when I was a kid? People saying, "What you're doing to Michael's not right. You're causing problems." Where were the advocates for me? There wasn't any. There was nobody I could go to. I thought that just was normal. I'm not going to lie to you, viewers. I believe with all my heart my mother is a bitch. And I've believed it way back when I was a teenager. The Bible says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath." They did that. They really did that. Yes, we had material things, but my mother was a selfish, self-centered woman. I saw that in the way she treated her husband. I saw that in the way she was always irritated with me and my sister, locking us in her rooms, being violent, abusive. I mean, unbelievable. And she would parade us in front of the rest of the family as such tough kids, getting everybody to feel sorry for her. Why the hell did you adopt? I'll never be able to get an answer to that question. But it was asked by several people in my family. Why did she adopt you guys? That to this day, they've never made an effort to say, "We need to talk. We have caused hurt. We did do things wrong. And we're sorry, and we love you, and we hurt, and we want to repair that." That will never happen. And I look at all their little Facebook pictures and all their happy family gatherings and see my mother's clenched smile. And I go, yep, that's women in America. They like image. Not this. That most American women leave a trail of destruction all over the place, but they sure look good. And that other American women can hear me talking on this channel. You're so angry. You hate women. And it makes me want to go, yeah. You guys got your little pat clinical diagnostics, and you're not even clinical psychologists, clinical medical people, nothing. You talk out of your butt because of women's studies. And I'm going to say something in this channel that the federal government, the fact that the federal government does not shut down women's studies, which is a destructive, sexist education that is damning American males. That they don't stop that, which is an absolute, in-your-face, overt, and public education supported form of discrimination against the American male. That they don't shut that down ought to tell us that, yes, we are being socially engineered. That our government can pass things, ridiculous things, without majority of the citizens of this country, but behind closed doors, and do what they're doing. Yes, we're being socially engineered. Get on Craigslist, and there is so much gay stuff. I was looking at the TV, and they had soaps, and this woman's standing there, and she catches two men in the bed together, her husband or boyfriend, and he's going at it with another handsome hunk of a guy, and I'm going, oh, great, now soaps have capitulated to this. I mean, soaps are garbage anyway. You need to wash with soap after you wash them. Watch them. Men are becoming bisexual in the shiploads. Men want to get off and have their cock sucked and do things with other men. Why? Because getting involved with an American woman is hazardous to your health, your bank account, and you will get sucked into a legal wrangling, haranguing with a woman that you don't want anything to do with. That when a man's man enough to admit his mistake and walk on, he's got to pay for it, pay for it, pay for it, pay for it. That I had to walk out and make sure my truck wasn't damaged in the night. It's ridiculous. I'm not causing any problems for anybody. Not my son, not my ex, but she's still causing problems and drama and collateral damage and doesn't have the wherewithal as a Christian woman to stop and go, man, I am being destructive. Where did all this blame mentality come from? How come women want equality? And I'm starting to say, if you want equality, then please, let's give it to you. The workplace has their hands tied. But if we were back in the 40s, they'd say, hey, women, if you want to work in a man's world, quit bitching about the ice. If you don't like it, quit. I'll get men that'll put up with it, and they won't say one word. This is Colorado. We have ice. Sorry, we don't have a heated parking lot with automatic lipstick dispensers. I'm sorry, we're not catering to this. Women want to act like men, but yet when they have problems out there, they whine like little babies. You want equality with a man? Then quit bitching about some ice. If you fall on your butt, get up, pick yourself up, and walk. Most women today fall, and they want workman's comp right now, even if they didn't get totally hurt. Oh, I hurt my butt. Oh, and they want to sit for 3 months on workman's comp, filing paperwork in the office. It's ridiculous. Yes, the workplace needs to ensure a safe environment, but our boss gave a reasonable explanation. And I'm like, she had her hands tied. It's not her fault. How come women today can't stop and look? This is a unique situation. We'll roll with it. We'll just be more careful. But no, we got to bitch and bitch and bitch. And when other male drivers come up to me and said, gosh, did you hear all that bitching in there and whining? I went out to my bus. I didn't say one dang word. I saw one of our oldest, #1 seniority driver walking, and I went over and I said, here, take my arm, man. He said, thank you. And all these people came up, wow, that was nice of you. I don't need a hero's welcome. Anybody should do that. The guy's in his 80s and he's driving a bus. We don't need him falling, because if he falls, it's going to hurt. Got him across the ice to his bus, and he was fine. I made it to my bus and didn't slip and fall. I walked in between it. There was ice everywhere. Yes, I am starting to see that we're being social engineered for destruction. And who is behind all this? Is it the Bilderbergs? Is it the old Rockefellers? Is it the old money? Is it the elite? I read something about Warren Buffett that's disturbing. Everybody looks up to him and thinks he's wonderful. Well, Warren Buffett is in Obama's back pocket. That's the first red flag right there. But let's talk about Warren Buffett. He doesn't give to charity, is what I read the other day. He hoards his money. He's miserly. He lives in a simple house in Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm like, yep, building bigger barns to store your money, and one day your life will be required of you, and then who's going to get it? Somebody who doesn't deserve it at all. Is it the rich elite? I don't know. But I'm going to offer a more conservative, factual answer that isn't a conspiracy theory. There is somebody who's behind all this, and we know who he is. The devil, the dragon, the serpent, Satan, Beelzebub, Lucifer. Satan doesn't want people to have a good life. He comes to destroy, lie, devour, steal. Why do you think the ghetto mentality is prevailing in this culture? We could stop it. We have the resources and the means to stop it. Here's my offering for how to deal with inner city gangs. Send the military in there armed with machine guns and shoot them all. Say, we're done with the gangs. We're going to find you and we're going to end it. It's a war. But no, they have rights. And if they happen to be black or Hispanic, they even have more rights. Did you notice that when Columbine came down, that not one white person came down and said, wow, and defended Eric Harrison, Dylan Klebold? But then you have a thug, a complete loser, Michael Brown, a black male who's not contributing any good to society. In fact, his single act of robbing a convenience store, roughing up a clerk, well, not a single act, but a series of acts, and then getting mouthy with a police officer that resulted in the end of his own life, the absolute millions of dollars of press coverage, damage to buildings, property, and damage to relations between white and black people that he caused is off the freaking charts. And when ignorant African Americans stand up and say, oh, this is racism. Yeah, it's racism, all right. It started with Michael Brown being conditioned and taught that white men are the evil ones, and now we're going to get into a white cop's face who's simply doing his freaking job. Let me say something to my viewers as a white man. Black people and Hispanic people are being conditioned and taught that we are the enemy. They're being taught that in the education system, and they're being taught that in their own families. Make no mistake about it. And the ACLU is not stepping up to the plate, and the so-called watchdog groups aren't even uttering a whimper. White women aren't saying one darn thing because they've got their vendetta against the white male as well. It's okay for white women to clean out white men's bank accounts, win in the courts with child custody issues, and slap child support issues on guys and do what they do. That's not justice. That's a stacked deck. We are being socially engineered to be anti-family, pro-lascivious sexuality in the streets, open with everything. And the next domino that will fall, and it's already going on. There's underage sex going on all the time. But the next domino to fall is when adults start demanding the right to be able to have sex with their children, with teenage girls, etc. You think I'm joking? Just wait. It'll be coming soon to a theater nearest you. Today's teenagers are provocative, and they're foul, And that adults in this society aren't standing up saying, you are not dressing like that and you're not going to act like that. No, we don't have many ladies in this culture anymore. We have women that are Jezebel spirits. And I want to build that out. A Jezebel spirit is one who is against God. And yes, we've got many Christian women that have a Jezebel spirit about them. That submission to men and husband and authority is conditional with them. It's not what the Bible teaches. I heard this right when I got saved. And I didn't see the connection with feminism then, but I heard women saying, well, if my husband loves me as Christ loved the church, then I can submit to him. That's not what it says, sweet lips. That if any of them obey not the word, they may be won over by your meek and submissive and gentle behavior. When's the last time you met a woman who's gentle and meek in America? I watch black women in our break room. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care if anybody likes me. I don't even want to hear your mouth. Shut up, ghetto girl, and go. But no, we got to be subject to that. She talks loud for everybody to hear. She walks in arrogant every day with her cutesy boob revealing stuff, and nobody addresses her, including her own. Yeah, we'll just stop right there. Black people favor black people, Hispanic people favor Hispanic people, and the white man is denigrated at every turn. There are black women I work with, they'll never say hi to me. They'll never, ever initiate the first stepping over the aisle with me. And so what I finally decided to do with some of them is I don't even talk to them. I don't look at them. I don't want to get involved in that satanic vortex of hate. And a white man's not allowed to say anything, and a white man's not allowed to have his views. It's interesting. Payday was on Thursday. 40 people called in sick. And this happens every payday. We just had 2 weeks off for the holidays. We have 1 day off on Monday. And people complain they don't earn enough money, and we don't. And they got all these holidays 4 or 5 months out of the year with collective holidays and weekends with no pay. And then they take off on payday because they get it as a sick day. Lying. Most of them are women. It amazes me that I, as a white man, have stood back and heard all this crap all my life. That men are bad, men are bad, men are bad, men are pigs, men are pigs, men are pigs, men are bad housekeepers, men are this and that. And yet you find more men, their houses are more in order than most women. That when men raise their kids, that typically they have a tighter rein on them than most women. That when men go to work, they know the conditions are this way and they just deal with it. And men don't play games with each other, generally. Of course, we're raising a new crop of little boys today that are putting gauges in their ears and everything else and acting like sissy boys and thinking they're tough. They haven't worked a hard damn day in their life. We're raising a generation of males that are too busy looking at themselves in the bathroom mirror and acting like pretty boys, smarting off and talking foul to us. And yet, they don't deserve 1 ounce of my respect. If my grandpa were alive, he would have tanned their hide so deeply. I think of my grandpa who was in the Merchant Marine, he had his problems, but he would not put up with the stock of males that's coming out today. Pussy boys. And that's all they are. They get on their little Facebook and they got their long, black, stringy haired little dirtball girlfriends going, oh, you're so cute. I like your picture and your gay hairstyle. And yeah, I cannot believe what is going on in our culture. That a guy like me who works hard, who pays his taxes, who votes, who respects traffic laws, I can't even go home without somebody creating an altercation on the road. These SUVs, and that is what they are. They got this nicer vehicle than I do, more money than I do, with all their little family stick figure stickers on the back bumper and their Obama hug and stuff, and they cut me off. And I honk. And they either ignore me or they go like this. What did I do to deserve that? Our government doesn't do a damn thing about the traffic problem. Most Christians say, well, come on, man, I go 5 over. You're supposed to go the speed limit. Photo radar vans will get you at 5 over. I've watched it. I love when I go through a school zone. I'm going the speed limit in my bus, and the car goes zoom, poof, flash bulb. I pull up the light next to him, I look at him, shake my head, and go, "You're on candid camera." Dumbass. I'm sorry. I am getting hard and jaded. You know what? I see people with such rudeness, these women that haul around me with their smart-ass attitude, and I think, man, I would love it if they hit a telephone pole. I admit it. I'm not going to stop. I can't in a bus anyway. I'll call it in. But if I was in my truck, I'm not stopping. I'll call it in on my phone and say, yeah, there was an accident. A woman just hot-rodded around me and lost control. Or a guy. I'm sorry to admit that, viewers. Our society is jading me. People are so self-centered and so rude. I'm tired of it. Got an ex-wife who's sending her little immature, childish BS notes and mailboxes and bothering me instead of meeting with me and getting a productive plan and sticking to it. And after talking to some of my female friends and viewers and putting it all out there on the table, they rightly ascertain it's about control for her, dude. You're not doing things her way. I'm not going to do things her way. And what bothers me is that the American women have the courts in their favor, even if they're dead wrong in everything they've been doing. The older I get, I'm human, and I still try to have hope. But I have prayed and prayed over and over for this woman that God would open her eyes to what she's doing. Open her eyes to the discrepancies in her own handling of all of this. That son is a 10-minute walk from here. 10 minutes. He does not come down here to see me. He knows he can come and see me anytime. He knows that every time I see him, I'll provide him a meal, spend time with him, or take him out to lunch. He doesn't want to see me. For me to go bang on that door, some of you female viewers say that you should get involved. You don't understand. I show up on that property and bang on that door, she could get a restraining order on me. I went through that last summer. We're not doing that again. I've been counseled to not go to that door, legally and by family. I'm not giving her my phone number. She has proved over and over that she abuses that. That when she doesn't get her way, she sends the text message warfare campaign. And I'm going to say something to American women. They are good at that. Typing and texting, emails and letters. And they will not fight like a man and go face to face and hash it out. Because they can't. Most women that I work with that are talking loud and everybody's got to hear them, they're so stupid they don't realize they're so freaking insecure, and they're overcompensating for it by being like that. Black women are the queens at that one. I try to be open in my mind to dating black women, and then I see this stuff over and over, and I just go... Scratch out black females, scratch out Hispanics, scratch out USA Asian girls that are all Hello Kitty walking around in the malls. I go to the mall and they're all over the place, buying bags of crap. And more I'm forming a view that I'm done with even the idea of marriage. No, I'm not MGTOW. I'm done with entertaining the idea of marrying somebody overseas because I'm not willing to spend for visa and do that. And I will be honest, I believe it's a man's job to pursue a woman. But I don't believe it's my job to pursue a woman overseas. And I struggle because of this equality thing, because of feminism. When I was trying to get Beth over here, and she was totally uncooperative at every turn. And last night I was looking at Facebook and looking back into my archives of some of the photos I still have from that whole saga. There are pictures where we look genuinely happy together, but there were problems. She's a very difficult woman to please. And when I've got immigration on the burner and I'm doing this and that, and I said, I need you to save for a plane ticket, and she started putting up a fight over that. And it took me 4 years to wake up and realize, dude, she doesn't love you. Love doesn't do this kind of stuff. And Maharani says, if I had the means, I would come over to be with you, or I would visa you here. Would you really do that? Yes, I would. See, when you're both in love with each other, you both do what you got to do to make it work. That's reality. And many of my male viewers said, go over there. I can't go over there. I don't have enough money to become a resident in Australia. I don't want to live in Australia anyway. It's more the same. People ask me, would you marry Maharani? I'm going to say something that's going to be a real vulnerability about my dysfunction. I have too easily wanted to marry many women because I'm done that way. Because I thought they were pretty and I wanted to believe. At first I thought, no, you know what, we couldn't marry. If I had the means to do it, my thing is I would have to spend time with her physical. I'm not going to marry just off a computer relationship. So I would get to know her physically, meaning spending time there or her with me and say, let's see how this fleshes out. But yes, you can tell I'm aging. I'm a little more cautious about things now, not so impulsive. I've had to be honest about my feelings in the last few weeks about other things. I'm not going to get too personal here. There are some women who have liked me, but I'm not moved that way. I like them as a friend, or I like them as an advisor, or I like them because they have qualities about their life that I like. But on a romantic level, I think, no. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have to look at the motivations behind everything we do. Somebody asked me once, what if you met some rich New Yorker who was a multimillionaire and she was older than you and wanted to marry you? I said, if I don't love her, no. My heart is not after using somebody for their money. But where I do have a problem is I'm attracted to beauty. And I've looked at pictures of women, and I'm moved by some of the women that I've said, my gosh, she's gorgeous. And let's be honest, how many of us guys say I'd give my left nut to have a girl like that? Come on, let's be honest. Without even knowing a darn thing about their persona. I'm going to say something very bold. I talked about this issue with a coworker of mine, a male, one day off of route time, and we were on our break, and I said, the thing we males don't look at, and I can see it in our break room, the really good-looking females are always high maintenance, and they're like purebred dogs. If any of you know anything about purebred dogs, people who raise purebred said they're very temperamental, they're very finicky and picky, they don't make good pets. Purebred dogs are for showing off. AKC registered papers. But the best dog you can have, unfortunately, is a mutt. Now, let me be careful what I'm saying here. I'm not saying, oh yeah, 350-pound Bessie. That's not what you want. Of course, some men are okay with that. If that's what floats your boat, then go for it. But for me, I don't want somebody who weighs like that. But when we talk about the term mutts, dogs that are mixed breeds generally make better pets. Dogs that make good pets are golden retrievers and Labradors. But you get into Chihuahuas and stuff, Chihuahuas are skittery and fussy and yappy, but you get into purebred of anything and they're a pain in the butt. And I've noticed a pattern after 48 plus years. So it is with good-looking women, really good-looking. They're like purebreds. You're not going to be able to please them. They're going to be moody. They're going to be bitchy to you. They're going to be a problem. They're not going to be a good companion. I can go through this city and point to these high-maintenance, good-looking women. They're a pain in the butt to their own husbands. They got a high-dollar price tag lifestyle. They shop and shop. They offer not a damn thing to their husband, except maybe once a month you might get a good lay, but that's even doubtful because they'll just lay there and do nothing because they don't have passion. How can you have passion when you buy all your clothes from Target? Now, I'm not talking about price saving here. I buy clothes at a thrift store and I find more passion in some used t-shirts than I do in what Target's selling brand new. No. I get it. My finger's on the pulse. There are times when Pacific is actually attracted to a woman who's not even near a 10. A woman who has long hair and kind of a pretty cuteness about her who's a little bit, can I say it? A little bit more plump than I would normally go after. Because what it all boils down to is she's got personality, sweet personality. Living with the woman with the yellow itsy bitsy eensy weensy yellow polka dot bikini may look good with your guy friends. It may bolster up your insecurity. Look at who I'm with. Spend some time relationally with her. Don't you dare tie the knot. Women that are demanding expensive, showy weddings, run from them. My grandpa told me a story that I remember that he says that with his, my grandma, that they basically got married under a palm tree. How fitting. I want to say something as an injection into this conversation. I was talking with a woman friend of mine. She had a boyfriend who was living with her, and she really loved him. And they had their problems, but this guy, he went out and had an affair with a mistress and is living with her. Well, now he's text messaging her and emailing her from another state. She moved away to get away from him and get on with her life. She sold her house in one state, moved to another, and this guy's still pestering and haranguing with her, begging her, saying, "You messed up my life because you left it." He moved in with the mistress and is still with the mistress, and now he's bad-talking the mistress to her. And I said, tell him to get a freaking job and move out and live alone for a year to prove his love for you. And he's drowning on Oxycontin. Screwing around with woman after woman. And then saying how much he loves her. Writing a letter of apology one day and 2 days later is sending hate texts. Something ain't right there. Especially when a man's doing it. I expect that behavior from my ex-wife, but not a guy. Guys have become freaking girls today. I know, because I've been there myself. And sometime you got to grow up and snap out of it. Take your panties off and put on a pair of BVDs and be a man. But we were talking about different things, and we were talking about affairs. And she showed me a picture of the girl he's with, the mistress. I said, my gosh, that was a major step down from you. And that led into a conversation about Prince Charles. Okay, we're dating ourselves. Those of you in your 20s won't remember this, but those of you closer to my age will. What was probably the most televised marriage we have seen in our entire life, viewers? Princess Diana. I want to say something about Princess Diana. I want to say something because I remember in the 80s, all the girls were up, you know, from LA, the relatives, the cousins, the aunts, the grandma. I mean, my sister, they stayed up all night to watch Dee get married to Charles. As a man, Princess Diana was stunning. She was beautiful. I liked Diana because she was an approachable royalty. But Diana didn't play the game. She liked Duran Duran. She couldn't have been all that bad. Diana broke the mold of the traditional stoic, I just ate a bowl full of sour lemons look. Diana symbolized a sense of freedom that had come into the royalty. I respected her. To see Charles playing around with Camilla, and I'm going to be bold, because opinions are like butts. We all have them. Camilla is not pretty. Not in the least. Stern, austere. But of course, Camilla was more expected body language of what should go with royalty. How could a man who had such a gorgeous dame as Prince Di go to that? Most of the time when a male has an affair, he does a major step down from what he has. That's a fact. Very seldom will you meet a man who finds a Baywatch girl that's above and beyond what he's married to. It's usually some dog of a woman, a loser of a woman that she would even have an affair. Oh yes, I'm convicting myself. I've had affairs. Why is that? Because we get so blinded by sin and lust that we don't see the rottenness on the other side of that fruit we're about to pick and devour. I'm sorry, but Camilla, to me, is not the kind of woman I would ever choose in my life. In my normal, rational mind, I'd rather choose a Princess Di than that any day. Yes, our society is being socially engineered. We're teaching kids at a very early age, and listening to Aaron Russo talk about the public education system is clearly brainwashing kids. I noticed that more and more with the public schools, we're not turning out nice kids. We're turning out kids that are crying racism and unfairness and injustice and anti-conservative, anti-God, pro-gay, pro-abortion, pro-attack, all authority on all levels. That's where that's coming from. The public education is under the control of the devil. And don't think that Christian schools aren't falling prey to it. When schools do the accreditation, to get accreditation, that means they have to meet conditions offering humanities and Freudian psychology and all that other crap that has no place in biblical Christianity. Women's studies is as sexist and as discriminatory as it gets, and yet it goes on college after college, university after university, and we are pumping out like cookie cutters in factory quantities Women that are coming out hating men, teaching our boys, teaching kids, and those same women get on my bus on field trips, and it is so clear that they're anti-male by their body language and their inability to even, as a professional in a teaching position, be polite to me. Ridiculous. Pacific is not pulling the stuff out of his butt. Pacific is not going off with conspiracy theories. I don't buy into conspiracy theories. But Barack Obama and the Democrats do not want equality. That's a bunch of bull. They want one group to have more rights than another. The blacks want to have more rights against discrimination, but that doesn't apply to the white man. Pay attention to that. Same with the Hispanics. And those two groups alone in the U.S. have caused untold billions of dollars of damage to this economy and to the quality of life as we know it. And I'm going to say it. Am I racist? I'm stating a fact. Feminism is costing this country billions of dollars of damage. We cannot say that our justice system is just when it's controlled by feminists. No, it isn't. I'll tell you a story. I went to pick up one of my students at one of the schools yesterday. Black woman. She's standing across the street. I pulled up 10 minutes early, turned off my bus. I'm dusting my dash and everything. And I look over and she's got her back turned to me and she's standing with another girl. And then they move around to my side of the bus outside and I come out, wipe my door off the glass. I said, hey, how you doing? And then I smell the pot. And she's smoking weed with another black guy. Right there on school property. And I texted the teacher because the teacher gave me her number and said, if this girl doesn't get off the bus or you have any problems, send me a text. And I said, I'm smelling dope. And then we talked on the phone, and I did this after I dropped her off, shut down the bus, and I called the teacher and I said, yeah. She goes, okay, I'll solve that problem. I'll make sure I'll bring her out to your bus right at the time so that she has no time to go. I said, cool. I said, you need to inform that girl that just her having that on the bus, that we could do a police bust. And they will take her into custody. She cannot even carry that on the bus. She's under 18. Why would a state allow recreational marijuana use and think that that's good for the economy? And in 2 years, we've had 1 million more commuters show up in Denver. Trust me, a lot of those are here because of the dope. I'm getting tired of people sitting there telling me that pot is good to legalize. And the argument goes like this, well, they're going to do it anyway. Okay, so let's legalize pedophilia because they're going to do it anyway. Let's legalize arson and carjacking because they're going to do it anyway. The stupidity of that thinking is beyond rational. Well, look at what they did in Prohibition. So we let the law of the jungle prevail. That's what determines our ethics. Wag the dog. Good grief. And Pacific is not a college-educated student. I don't have a degree in rocket scientist, and I can look at this and go, is it just me, or is there something wrong out there? Yeah, Houston, we have a problem. $55.11 to base. Go ahead, 5511. I just saw Pacific's bus crash. It turned sideways and it's loaded with kids, and I don't know what's going on, but all these cars crashed into it. And 10-4, calm down. And they come out to the scene, and I'm not there. And all of a sudden, the news comes on in Colorado and says, it has been reported that drivers are suddenly disappearing, that people are disappearing, there's auto wrecks all over the place, we have a school bus turned on its side, dozens of injuries. I'm sorry, folks, but that is coming. No, not me wrecking a bus. I hope that never happens. It could. I hope not. At least through no fault of my own. Jesus is coming. And no matter who's pulling on these strings to ruin our country, that's not going to go on forever. Satan is behind all of this chaos, all of this mayhem, all of this disunity, all this racism, which interestingly enough is the people that are causing the biggest problems racially are the ones crying racism all the time. If black kids get arrested by a police officer for doing absolute vandalistic, wrong, illegal behavior, but they're going to find something with that white cop that's racism and get off. Look at the O.J. Simpson trial. Classic, classic, classic. We don't have enough damning evidence. Blood in the Bronco, broken glass in the hotel room in Chicago, cut his hand. Gee. Thumps behind Kato Caitlin's little rented apartment behind O.J. Simpson Manor. How about Michael Jackson, black guy, Colin McCulkin, and kids sleeping in his bed, and that doesn't even ring or sound like inappropriate behavior with minors? He should have been arrested on the spot. If Pacific was in bed with one of his bus students and that was caught, oh my gosh, I'd be arrested. My bus endorsement would be pulled. I'd be reeling in legal battles for a long time. And we let a freaking black pop star get away with it? Oprah Winfrey, black woman, funneled millions of dollars into campaign for Barack Obama. Why? Because he's black. Oprah Winfrey doesn't live in the ghetto. And she doesn't even have a clue about sound theology. She's a self-appointed guru that spews her pablum out to a bunch of undiscerning, silly, emotionally led women. We have an entire culture that has been brainwashed by television and the who's who, including a Jehovah's Witness who doesn't celebrate one holiday, not even the 4th of July or a birthday. And I had a discussion with a Jehovah's Witness this week. They don't believe in voting at all. Oh, but yet you believe that if that woman's on The View, she must be somebody of significance. Wow. The people they put on The View are nobodies. They're darling child. And here's the thing that blows me away about The View and most TV. And I'm going to say something against my own white culture. Most modern media today is white-dominated, white favoritist, and pro-feminist, and white women. They'll do the token black, they'll do the token Asian, but it's dominated by white people. And yet black people and Hispanic people watch and lap up The View and all these liberal trash shows. You see, I see stuff going on all across the board that has finally led me to believe. And after listening to Aaron Russo, I am convinced, yes, there is something going on. Any leader worth his salt would see this and say, we got a problem. The fact we're not doing anything about it is telling that they don't want to do anything about it. The destruction process has come along just fine, and they're very pleased with it. Barack Obama has not done one good thing for this country since his term in office. Not one thing. He has not bridged the gap between the racial divide at all. In fact, he's widened it substantially. And all the black people expected him to come in and be their savior with Michael Brown. Are you serious? Barack Obama is a puppet of Satan. Barack Obama is not a godly man. He is not a Christian man. He doesn't know the first thing about biblical Christianity. He doesn't care about biblical Christianity. He hates conservatives. He hates white people. That is evident. He has added to our deficit more than all of the presidents combined, including Bush. And yet that was all blamed on him too. Yes, it is happening. Churches are being socially engineered as well. When Rick Warren comes out with the wallet-driven purpose and all the churches say, oh, we got to get on board with this. No, you don't. Don't waste your money and quit tithing Rick Warren's empire. The guy theologically is off base. And I'm sorry, but even David Jeremiah, I listen to him, good preaching. But most Americans lap up the household Christian names, and I heard him say something that's like, that's false. He said, we need to stop being lukewarm Christians like they were in Laodicea. Those aren't lukewarm Christians, Dr. Dave Jeremiah. Doctor, heavy on the doctor. Lukewarm, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice. It's a church that doesn't know God. We don't need Jesus. We don't need his salvation. We're religious. And then he was advertising a book that if you invest in the ministry, we'll give it to you free. Well, it's not free then. Quit lying to me. Quit using gimmicks to get people to give to your radio ministry. You're running a church, right? Too many Christians, including household names, and I listen to Max Lucado get on there with his insipid, mushy, comfortable Christianity, living in his little comfortable kingdom. He's got his 401k and his retirement, and he can sit there and say, don't worry about it. God's in control. No, your bank account's in control, and all the money that all these silly, shallow, superficial Christians are pumping into your millions and millions of books. Yes, I'm attacking that. There's book after book on how to solve the problem of lust and how to bondage breaker this and to bondage breaker that. Renounce the Ouija boards that your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather 5,000 years ago used to play with. It has a stronghold on you today. When are we going to wake up? They're living on their island in their nice little house. Or not their island, but their American utopic dream. If Pacific found a surefire answer that solves a problem, I'm going to put it out here on this video, and I'm not going to charge you a dime for it, because you know what? It says you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. The truth is free. We don't peddle the word of God for profit. The Bible's very clear about that. Joyce Myers is, Joel Osteen is, David Jeremiah and a host of others are making a nice profit. And they become icons. Oh, I love listening to Dr. David Jeremiah. And I'm sorry, but I listen to the people in his congregation, hear his broadcast, and he says something like, he'll say something like, you know, we bold witnesses, the return of the Lord, and you hear all these old people, amen, as they back out their Lincolns and their Cadillacs and go to their comfortable homes. They're not doing a damn thing for Jesus Christ. They're living their best life now. And they sit in this comfortable, incubatory Christian setting. Oh, we love David Jeremiah. He's a wonderful pastor, but you're not doing anything. We've got hell swirling all around our culture, sucking people out like a tornado, and we're not doing a thing. We're not confronting the culture. We're not speaking up. We just sit there and amen, pastor. Preach it, preach it. Oh, yes, this world's getting wicked. It's getting bad. And you go with your Lincoln across town to your nice little warm house, and you have your little fellowship lunch, and you come. I'm sorry, I'm attacking it. Because that's the kind of Christianity I've been seeing modeled in front of my eyes, that everybody has this big pep rally for Jesus, but if I wear jeans and a t-shirt, you're not going to say hi to me. I drive up my 20-year-old truck to Dr. David Jeremiah's church. I guarantee you that most of those people in there would see that. In California, me with my truck with rust around the fenders, and I would deliberately go there just to see what they do. I bet you every one of those people in SoCal have nice cars. I love going into places and watching when the majority of their SUVs and cars are nice, and I pull up in my truck that's 20 years old. Does Jesus really transform people? I don't see it. It's not Jesus' fault. It's their own. Cultural Christianity. I like David Jeremiah's lessons. Okay? Listen to some good preaching on your way to work. We need to spend more time on that instead of listening to club and gyrate music. to get your sexual hormones all activated. We need to fill our mind with the truth. But also realize those preachers are feet of clay as well. I think people are starting to get up. But the church has been bought by the secular culture as well in America. That we got to use the same gimmicks that the world uses. That we got to spend money on sound systems and PowerPoint presentations and paving the parking lots to look good and adding on to buildings, and we're doing this, and yet we're not really making a difference in the community. I've heard nothing from that church. I didn't cause any trouble down there. I just went. Pastor hasn't emailed me. Nobody said, hey, I missed you. Why are you not here? They don't care. People will not care about how much you know until they know how much you care. People will not care about how much you know until they know how much you care. Most Christians in the U.S. don't love anybody but themselves. They are guilty of the same problem I see on my junior high routes with girls. They're inverted. Everything's about their comfort zone, their income, their trips to Israel, their Christian cruises, their little comfort zone. Don't you dare rock my boat. But then we're going to rally everybody on Sunday before the election about voting conservative ticket and the destruction that's happening in this country because the godless people are getting in there, but you guys aren't making a bit of difference. You just got your little cloistered little feel-good comfort club, and you read your little Max Lucado books and nothing changes. If we do not break away from that mentality, the church will continue to be as ineffective as it is now. When we are stamping out Christian women like Gypsy and my ex-wife, and they can go to church Sunday after Sunday and act like a complete yuck, I don't get it. I have my problems, and I freely admit that. I don't treat people like those women treat me. Hold on. I don't know if the wind's blowing or the dog's moving around. I must be going batty. I'm hearing things. The wind is... This is funny. Even with all the doors shut, you can always tell if a place has drafts. This door keeps creaking, and it's really blowing out there today. This morning in the dark of 6:05 a.m. Jesus said, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And that is true. But the church is fraught through with compromise at every level. I'm fraught through with compromise. Let me own that myself. I'm more accepting of things that I shouldn't be accepting of. Sins. We've been greatly affected by the culture that we're in. We are the frog in the pot of water. And it's not easy to just stop something. But we need to start filling our minds with truth, because truth is like that crowbar under the floorboards. It gets under things and starts exposing deep down inside of us. But American women are being taught to turn against us. That's a fact. The public education system in the United States is not interested in promoting Jesus Christ. The Bible says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Schools do not start with that foundation at all. They start with the doctrine of humanism and evolution, which is godless to the core. It is a huge satanic lie. Evolutionists, atheists have hijacked the word science and hijacked the word truth and turned it all around. There's nothing scientific about evolution. Nothing. And they call it science. Well, to them, I quote back to Thomas Dolby's song, "She blinded me with science." You're blind. True science has never disagreed with the scriptures, ever. Science is me simply doing this. Push the button, light comes on. Push the button, light comes on. When I push this button, the light comes on. When I walk around and I watch what women are doing in my culture, I can make some definitive conclusions. Yes, generalizations. I can look at a fossil record, and it doesn't prove evolution at all. I can look at the living record, and it doesn't prove evolution at all. So then you simply counter back the evolutionists, quit blowing smoke up our butts, because that's all you're doing. And they still to this day won't deal with it. They want to get into quantum physics and all this heady, high stuff. Quantum physics doesn't prove evolution. Doesn't prove it at all. We live in a day and age where the Word of God is under attack, the family is under attack, traditional sexuality between men and a man and a woman that's supposed to be reserved for marriage. Okay, I admit it. We've all watered ourselves down in that area. And it was conditioned for us right from when we were born. TV shows, commercials all show the scantily clad women. They promote sex at every turn in the movies. Hollywood's still doing it. Hollywood is the most hypocritical industry out there in America. They'll be quick to criticize conservatives and criticize George Bush and this and that, but they never police themselves and hold themselves responsible or accountable morally, ethically, or spiritually in the movies they produce. More violence, more garbage, more trash. Instead of dealing with reality and using the media as a powerful tool to correct bad behavior, we use it to get people to think of some pop star in America is going to be asked to take out the leader of North Korea. Now, that's just stupid. Let's inflame a madman as it is. I don't blame him for getting PO'd about that. Why are we doing that as a form of entertainment? And I'm going to say it. America is going to be overtaken because of their love for entertainment. We will be dominated. We will be taken over by another country. It's going to happen, or destroyed, because when people love pleasure more than truth and absolutes, we are in trouble. And we may not be under Old Testament. We're not under Old Testament, but there's a principle that can be drawn. That when a nation turns its back so far on God that God will invariably bring another nation more wicked than itself and tear it apart. Rome has fallen, and so has the U.S. And the U.S., it's only a matter of time before we are owned by somebody else. We are in trouble. Immigration could be solved. It could be solved within 30 days. But the authorities aren't going to do it. The traffic problems in the U.S. could be solved. But they're not going to do it. A man like me, without paying big money, should be able to walk into a courtroom and say, here's what my ex-wife is doing to my kid. And the court, without getting attorneys involved, should say, you know what? You lose custody of your child, you're done. You are an unfit mother. That a man has to pay big money to do that? Get attorneys that you cannot just represent yourself? That's a screwed up justice system. And attorneys get away with murder. That a man charged me $1,500, which was exorbitant. He didn't do any research. He didn't work on the case at all. He heard my story. I showed him the evidence, which was quite a bit. He took it all. And he went to mediation. Total time involved with him, 2 hours. $1,500 for 2 hours of work. That's damn good money. It's disgusting. But I was told, you go in a courtroom up against a woman judge with an ex-wife, you're going to lose. Why is that? Because women have hijacked the justice system, that's why. It's happening in England, too. White men are getting screwed by the justice system. They favor women with child custody issues, child support issues. Women that are making big money can still go after a man financially. It is ridiculous. Yes, we are being socially engineered by greater powers than ourselves. But God sees it, and the hope that I give my viewers is God is going to hold into account. I don't care if it's Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Barack Obama. All men will stand totally naked before God and give an account of their lives. And if they don't know him, they're going to hell. We are dumb in this country. We look at the TV because that's been in our face all our life. And we see Warren Buffett, wow, he's successful. No, he isn't. He's a hellbound rich man. Bill Gates is a hellbound rich man. Barack Obama is the first black president that will go to hell. Congratulations. You lived your best life now only to just forfeit eternity. That's good. That's brilliant. That's rocket science, right? I got my college degree, I shake my boobies in everybody's face, but you're going to go to hell someday. You demand your equality and all your rights, and you stood up to every man around you, but you're going to hell someday. People don't think about eternity because the public education system has made sure to erode all of that out of the collective American conscience and psyche. God forbid you talk about the Bible in a classroom, and in 62 when the Supreme Court got involved and you can't post the 10 Commandments in a classroom, and then we wonder why kids are acting like monsters and the school system is its own worst enemy. We teach kids that they're all products of Freudian sexuality. It's okay to be gay, it's okay to be lesbo, it's okay to explore yourself in any way you want and go hump your dog. And we're going to celebrate and recognize and respect Ramadan and Kwanzaa and all the Muslim stuff. But don't you dare talk about the Bible and Jesus Christ, of separation of church and state, the hypocrisy in the public education system, the hypocrisy in what America focuses on and ignores is unbelievable. The media, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, PBS, NPR, all guilty and will have blood on their hands for lying about the actual reporting of the evening news. Spin doctoring things against God, against conservatives, against biblical Christianity, and making it look favorable and making it look like you're the cool ones. That's not reporting. I cannot believe hearing right out of the mouth of an unbeliever who claims that they have a special relationship with Jehovah that, well, she's on The View. Well, big deal. That this is the mentality, that there's a grid thinking in this culture that is so entrenched that for somebody like me who actually sees beyond that grid and says, whoa, this is not right, you are going to be rejected by that grid. Banks are not your friends. And I'll tell you why. You have money in a bank account and they give you peeny-weeny interest, but they're using your money to get richer and richer and richer. When the bank makes a mistake on your account, do they give you any money back as a penalty to themselves? No, but if you're late on a loan payment or you bounce a check, they penalize you. Banks are cutthroat, greedy sons of guns. And I want everybody to pay attention to the nation of Switzerland. In World War II, nobody touched them. You stop and tell me why. But I'll give you an answer before you can even get it out of your lips. Because that's where all the banks were. Hitler didn't touch them, America didn't touch them, and neither did Yamamoto. Why is that? It's funny how there was unity among bitter enemies in a war that was causing destruction from stem to stern of this world. But nobody touched Switzerland. Why not? Because everybody's dirty little bank accounts were in there. There is no justice in the United States. That's a lie. When John Benet Ramsey's murdered and the parents get off and walk, don't talk to the police. How about holding Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris's parents accountable for Columbine? Nothing was said about them. Oh, it was said behind closed doors. They didn't talk. They didn't say anything. And they were told later on when one of the parents came forth, we were told not to say anything. Okay. Meanwhile, you're still got your comfortable life. And don't even start with me. Oh, you have no idea how tragic was the loss of our son. Yeah, you know what? How did your son get that way? Because you were busy worshiping your SUV and your Colorado lifestyle? Oh, yeah, that's more like it. Nobody said a word about the parents. They just talked about these bad, horrible kids that had hate. But nobody even looked at the seeds of that, too. If they had loving families who were well-adjusted, I don't think those boys would have resorted to that. But it was rumored that their bedroom doors had locks on them and they were storing all these grenades and junk in there. What kind of a parent was allowing that? And I'm going to say something about most white middle-class parents. They have no freaking clue what their kids are doing and they don't care. Don't bother me. I'm watching the ball game, man. What are parents in Colorado modeling their kids? That it's all about SUVs, dogs, and $5 coffee. That's what they're modeling. And it's those same parents that are driving around school buses, cutting 2 inches in front of them, no turn signal bus driver honks, and they're going like this in front of their own teenage kids. I live in Colorado. I'm going to say it again. I think the parenting in Colorado sucks. I think the role models that adults leave in this city is a joke. I see it all day long through my windshield. And those same people treat me like a piece of trash out there. I hold the door open for a woman in Colorado. She doesn't say thank you. I watch women in the stores in Colorado and they block the aisle with their cart. You say, excuse me, they don't move and they give you a dirty look. Okay, do you want me to ram you next time, biatch? I mean, yes. And I'm going to say something specifically custom tailored for Colorado. Colorado is not a family environment. Colorado is a recreational, self-serving state. Mountains and ski slopes and that whole image. We can always tell the skiers with the ski racks on their car, they're the worst drivers on the road. They're the yuppie buckstart, arrogant, get out of my way, I'm going to the mountains mentality. We live in a day and age where it says in the Bible, know this, in the last days perilous times shall come. Men shall be lovers of their own selves, haters of those that are good. I see it just driving my pickup home from work. Big truck tailgates and gets closer and closer to where I can't even see his headlights in my windshield mirror. I let off the gas. I was going down a hill and it's 40 and I start to creep just a hair over 40 and I just gently touch the brake. He jerks out in the left lane. Well, funny, the truck in front of him slowed down and I gunned it up the hill, didn't exceed the speed limit because then I got it powered up. And then the truck gets stuck as a whole line of cars fill in behind me. And I'm like, yeah, you thought you were going to get around me? And you know what they'll do? You know what he would have done? If he'd have gotten 2 inches in front of my bumper, he would have cut me off with no blinker. I see it all the time. And I can say by the authority vested within me, by just making simple observation, that Colorado is not a very deep place to live. The people out here have a big collective problem. That the highlight of their day is to beat somebody to the next red light. That tells me that there's not a lot of intelligence out here. The highlight of the day is some ding-dong woman in her SUV who's slaloming in and out of traffic, and I pull up in my school bus, and it's like, well, there you are. You're next to me. What the hell did you accomplish, dumbass? Women don't like it when I talk like that. They don't like it when I say these things because they're convicted. They're immature, they're silly, they're materialistic, and they're childish. From my ex-wife to the women with these designer SUVs to the women walking around strutting their stuff at Cherry Creek Mall with their boring, dowdy outfits, spending too much money on their boring, dowdy stuff and thinking that they're more superior to everybody because they can afford to buy a Cherry Creek Mall. And they're all going to die one day. I don't mean to be morbid, but these women and these people in this country, they've never seen what happens when a tsunami comes to them. And then they're surviving and they see dead corpses laying around smelling and stinking and sewers have been overtaken and houses are gone. That when you die and you lay there on the ground, that it ain't pretty. And that women get so caught up in the outside packaging, the men are so caught up in what they drive, and that women now care more about a stupid dog than they do a human being, that they can abort their baby, but don't you dare hurt my doggy. The hypocrisy of America is number one in the world. And yet Americans still arrogantly say, oh, China's communist, they're evil, they're bad. Well, so are we. At least China's true to itself. We're not. We turn around and tell people to respect life, but we believe in abortion. And that same woman with her SUV will cut off somebody who has a walk sign and a crosswalk 2 inches from their body with their dog on their lap. I will be honest, I don't like the people of Colorado. Collectively, they suck. Well, why don't you get out? Because God is in charge of that. And people who are not Christians don't understand that premise. Viewers, it's not going to get better. This stuff isn't going to go away. We're not going to make utopia. We're not going to bring back the good old America. Something has accelerated in the last 20 years like nobody's business. The level of rude, the level of self-serving has just skyrocketed. And these little teenage girls are fit for nothing. They're not producing any collective good to our society. And they're being taught that we white men are worthless. Yet we're the ones working. The hypocrisy of American women, they don't need a man, but yet they get on dating sites. I don't need a man, but I want somebody to... And I read a post in Simply Platonic, I just want a friend who likes to go out to dinner to a different restaurant every week and travel and camp. And, oh yeah, so now you want a male friend who wants to spend money on you. Wow, I mean, you don't need a man, but you need his bank account. Women in America cannot, will not admit they're wrong. Will not. They're incapable of it. Because the system has taught them that there's nothing wrong with them. To quote the black guy who talked about American women, because they have boobs and a vagina, they think they're all that. And there are women that watch my channel that are not like what I'm describing, and I understand that. I'm not talking about every single American woman or woman. I'm talking about a collective majority. And I focused this week on the women thing because women are the dumbest of all the sexes, that they don't see what's going on. Most of them. More men see what is going on than women do in this culture, even men that aren't Christians. Now, why is that? Because men tend to think according to logic, and men do pay attention. Women don't. I've been with Beth for some time, and one day she laughed, and the way she opened her mouth, I saw what looked like a couple teeth that looked like they were just hanging there. Not dangling, but like glued side by side. And then I saw the scar on the gum, and I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I said, what is that? And she told me she was a little kid, she fell and literally damaged the gum line, and the teeth broke out, and they put them back in. We were walking out of my flat one day, and they're very steep tile stairs. You fall down those, you're going to hurt. She turns around and starts walking backwards, takes off her glasses. I said, "Ugh." I grabbed her. I said, will you watch what you're doing? I can't tell you how many times she did that. And I had to grab her. She'd fall down those stairs. That could have been bad. I'm still told. I hear it even here. There's a lot of ignorance by a lot of women in this country. I heard the comment just last night. Well, I know Christian women that'll take care of their relatives and not put them in nursing homes. And I know a lot of Christian women that'll dump off Granny in the nursing home too. Women aren't paying attention as much as the men are. Men see the feminism and what it's doing. Women are too busy sniffing the fumes of their own self-importance and the legend in their own mind mentality that they're like, oh, we don't have enough rights. The only thing collectively that women are doing, really, and it's not what I call good, is they're making the corporate CEOs smile because they're filling their bank accounts with their addiction to materialism. Have you noticed the cars, SUVs, all the safety stuff? This is all catering to women, not men. I look back at a standard pickup truck when I was born in 1966. There were no airbags. There were metal dash with chrome knobs for the heaters and all the controls. I liked those trucks. Glass over the instrument panel. They won't even put that in a vehicle now. The whole inside of my Ford is plastic. All of it. The new buses we're getting, everything is plastic. And it's already cracking. Screws are falling out. That we don't put an emphasis if you just drive properly. That is the biggest deterrent for getting into an accident. Now we're going to make vehicles safer so that people can drive more recklessly and not worry about getting hurt. And we see no emphasis out there today being put on safe driving. That people are lazy, that now we're putting cameras in these SUVs and Cadillacs and these little beepers that go off when you're backing up. It's like you can't get out and look. We have an expression for professional drivers. It's called goal. Get out and look. That when I'm backing up my bus, if I don't know what's back there, that I'll stop, pull the brake, go out and look back there. Oh, there's a trash can back there. Okay. People are lazy. Now they got to put turn signals on the mirrors and turn signals up on the top. And people won't even use the turn signal. And yet at the same time, we're making more unsafe situations and we're giving people a false sense of confidence that now you can go 150 miles an hour in your SUV because it's got anti-lock brakes and it's four-wheel drive and side impact beams. Beams? They're not beams. They're paper-thin pieces of metal that have been put in the door that if a semi-truck hits it, it's going to crush and still impale you to the steering wheel. But hey, makes you feel good about yourself. My truck going 65 miles an hour T-boning an SUV is going to flip that sucker over. Trust me. And somebody's going to get hurt. I think it's interesting what we're doing. We're deceiving ourselves. We're lying to ourselves. That most Americans believe it's all about building your little American dream. And what they don't realize is that the social engineers don't want you to have that either. Has anybody noticed in the last 5 years how much prices have jumped up on food and everything you buy every day? Did you notice now, these lenses were $275 just for the lenses. They want $172 for a frame just like this. I said, forget that, for plastic. You mean to tell me it cost you that much for the materials and the manufacturing and the trucking and shipping? No, it didn't. The markup on everything is beyond ridiculous. That a standard four-wheel drive pickup truck anymore is pushing $45,000. And you can go to Independence, Missouri and buy a house for $25,000. Yes, you'll have a hard time getting a decent job. But at least you own the house and the land it sits on. The truck or the car you buy is a diminishing return the minute you drive it off the lot. The amount of money you will put in to maintain that thing will far exceed its worth. Ever. Yeah, we're being socially engineered. The government's perfectly comfortable with men drowning in porn and alcohol and drugs. When the federal government allows a state like Colorado to allow recreational drug use, to watch women put in their post on Craigslist or dating sites, "I'm not into a man who does drugs, but I'm 420 friendly." Hey, stupid. 420 is a drug. The lie that pot doesn't cause any harm, I can tell you that the people who heavily use it aren't the brightest ducks in the pond. And there's evidence out, tons of evidence, that it damages and kills off brain cells. Most of the people that I know that smoke pot, I can tell. They're not motivated to get a job. They just want to sit around and smoke pot. I used to have a job, but then I got high. I used to have a wife, but then I got high. You know? It's funny, but America's racing to unravel laws that have been in place. And the Bible talks about a time in Revelation where the people repented not. God brought this judgment, brings this judgment in Revelation, but they did not repent of their sexual immoralities, their sorceries, and their idolatry. And I already told you many times, the sorceries comes from the word pharmakia, where we get the Greek word, or out of that Greek word, we get the word pharmaceuticals or pharmacy, which is drugs. Now we're allowing recreational use of pot. People in America, most of them are alcoholics. Most. They'll never say that, but they have to go and get drunk on Friday night. That's an alcoholic. Getting drunk at all is an alcoholic. People addicted to their addictions. People loving their addictions more than a good quality relationship, as is evidenced by the girl I dated on New Year's Eve, yelling and screaming at me because she was in the mall and couldn't smoke her cigarette as much. I didn't tell her she couldn't, but she had a meltdown because she was having withdrawal just for 2 hours being away from a cigarette. I looked at her and I said, "You have an addiction problem." "Yes, I do." Well, I'm not sharing in that problem because your addiction problem is negatively affecting me. It's making you into a royal biatch, and you smell, and you're done. Get in the truck, you're going home. That people would rather be married to their addiction than have a quality relationship with a guy. And then she complains all the way about all the different guys that she was involved with. Well, you're addicted to something. What kind of a guy are you going to attract when you're addicted to stuff and you're unwilling to change yourself? What kind of a guy are you going to attract? A guy who's addicted to stuff and unwilling to change himself. Hello, wake up, pull your head out of your collective butt, America, and figure it out. Feminism is destroying us. Women do not take personal responsibility for the sins and damage in the words they use and their body language and their tone in businesses, the workplace. They don't do it. And then they wonder why men are reacting. See, the American government doesn't care that you're drowning in porn. The American government views the American male as a means to money. Exhaust them of their resources, exhaust them of their bank accounts, get them harangued into a legal system where they're paying, and never able to get ahead. I'm going to be very honest. I can't wait for the day when the American government falls. That'll be the best day in American history ever, because it's gotten way out of hand. And it will fall. God will see to it. And all these politicians and all these people with their own agendas and their own self-centeredness and padding their own wallets, they will be held accountable. And they've already followed the principles of Joel Osteen. They're living their best life now, which means they're not going to have a best life later. If only people could step outside of themselves, whether it's a politician, Hillary Clinton, a feminist, and actually believe in the concept that there is a hell and there is a heaven and you're either going to be in one place or another. If they really believe that, it would change the way they live. But most Americans are living temporarily based and not looking far down the road. They're not looking at the big picture. They're not looking at eternity. The natural man comprehendeth not the things of God, and all they know is their silly little dumb world of man-made things. SUVs, worshiping your dog, and all your stupid little philosophies and junk that are collectively destroying humanity. Satan is smiling like a Cheshire cat all the way to the first great bank of Satan. Because there's a lot of people depositing into that bank every day. I like playing with this. It's a habit. I'm going to go eat my breakfast. I hope I've given everybody something to think about. The Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood. That's hard. That's hard for me to get that in my mind. That driver cutting me off, he's led by the devil. People know what they're doing. Yes, I believe that we are being socially engineered for destruction. That's ultimately led by Satan, whether it's the Bilderbergs, the rich elite, a few rich, powerful bureaucrats around the world that want to see the demise of America. I don't know that part. But Satan, he's not interested in this becoming an idealistic community. It's time for my Christian viewers to realize America's already finished. It's a beached whale. What we need to ask ourselves the question is, what does God want you to do in this hour right now? Is it to build the American dream, or is it to follow Him? That no matter what happens to us, as hard as this is to accept that God could allow excruciating pain and problems into our lives, are we going to submit ourselves to Him and say, okay, God, thy will be done? But America doesn't teach us that. America teaches my will be done. And it's showing up. And the chickens have come home to roost. And our young teenage girls that aren't very nice anymore, they're as selfish as they get because they've had great role models. And each generation that's been around nothing but selfishness, they take and magnify it more and more and more. America will not survive and will not succeed. How many more years will go on like this? I don't know. But if we, like the people on the Titanic, believe this is unsinkable, the iceberg will get us. Just because we have the greatest military doesn't mean that we can't have a surprise attack that could do us major collateral damage. And I'll tell you what, if China wanted to wage war on the U.S. can say whatever it wants, but it would do huge damage to us. Huge damage to us. That even if we were to get the upper hand, the cost to American lives would be massive. I do wonder what it would be like, and I'm sorry to be so morose, but I wonder what it would be like if I was sitting here doing this video and all of a sudden I heard this and I looked down in the distance and saw flashes of lights and watched skyscrapers fall and planes flying over and bombs being dropped all over Denver. I wonder what these SUV-loving, dog-worshipping, vain feminist women would be doing then. And these teenage brats and these people that are just so stuck on American stupid. What would happen if an invading army came in and started firing the tar out of us? When people are comfortable, when we've arrived where we become so petty and so self-serving, we can't even think of those scenarios because it's not within them to do so. Some geek spacky can get in his SUV and race and cut off everybody on his way to the tech center with his suit and tie on and not even think that he's setting a poor example and acting like a boneheaded, arrogant, bastard idiot. And we've got a country full of that. That it's all about me chasing my dollars and my house and my kingdom, and you build yourself your little $500,000, $1 million box, and your house is crap. We're building a society on veneer more and more and more. And if you put water on veneer, the veneer curls up and it's damaged. You put heat on veneer and it curls up and damages. We're not building a society of quality oak anymore. Look at the names of the cars. That ought to tell you everything. The Kia Sophia, the Toyota Sequoia. I'm going to name a pickup truck after a tree. Retarded. And the more Toyota pickups I see go by with that TRD on the back of the bed, that does stand for totally retarded driver. They don't use their turn signals. They're idiots. When I see what people do, you got the traffic lights when you're coming down the on-ramp where you have to stop and it says 1 car per green. It's 2 lanes. I go. The car next to me goes. And here comes totally retarded driver in his Tundra. Runs the light. I lay on the horn as I'm moving over the lane, which I have the right of way. That an American person would take on a school bus because of their innate selfish impatience that they've got to get ahead and can't wait 2 seconds to get on the freeway with 6 lanes where he will be able to get around me. I'm telling you, this is Denver, Colorado. The collective intelligence of this city is down here. But people rate their collective intelligence by their college degrees, not by common sense. American women getting on dating sites in Denver, Colorado, I want a man who's educated. No, you don't, lady. I'm educated, and you don't want me, because I'll shred you in your hypocrisy, and you don't want that. When a woman says she wants a man who's educated, that has to do with bank accounts, and that has to do with the brainwash that she herself has received. But she does not mean by that she wants a man who's a hard worker, who drives a 20-year-old truck, will look her right in the eye and say, I love you, but you're out of line. No. American women don't want a guy like that. They want a guy who's a pussy who will kiss their butt at every turn and never rock their boat. Well, I got news for you, girls. That's an expectation you'll never get. It might work for a while for some pussified male who just doesn't have a clue from a head, doesn't have a clue about anything, and doesn't know his own head from a hole in the ground. The average American woman today, on a majority basis, doesn't want an American male like me or the male viewers that get on my channel. Because us males, some of us that are here, believe in confronting a woman and putting her in her place. And I meant everything I said. And when I say put her in her place, I don't mean abuse, but say you are out of line. You're wrong. Silence. Stop and rethink this. No, you can't do that with most American women. I believe a man has every right to turn around to his wife and say, silence. I've heard enough. I don't want to hear another word. And you can't get her to shut up. That a woman's way of fighting is to jackhammer, yell, and scream and stand up for her rights. There's nothing even remotely Christ-like about that. And a lot of Christian women have a wrong definition of submission. Wrong definition. They believe that submission is conditional based on the husband's actions. They're bull crap. You cannot fight, you cannot prove that from the Word of God. That if you would respect your husband, and if he's truly a godly man, you're going to get more accomplished by doing that than by fighting him. I will tell you something to my viewers, even my females listening, I will not marry a woman who starts telling me what to do. I will not marry a woman who starts yelling at me, cussing at me, calling me names, and screaming at me, even if I'm wrong. You're done. Date's over. Goodbye. I'm not gonna have a woman rule over me again. I have no choice in the workplace. But I have a choice in my household if I ever have such a thing again. I've watched American women in their mentality on that today, and they're not doing any good. They're causing collateral wreckage. Women like that proliferate like rabbits. And they all think, you don't know me. I do know you. You're all the same. You've all been indoctrinated with the same anti-male grid of thinking, self-serving agenda, Freudian pop-based psychology. You're all the same. There's no mystique. You're not different. You wear the same dowdy clothes. You buy the same stupid retard Range Rover car. You're all the same. But then I talk to Maharani or Venus Star or women from abroad, and they are deeper and have some mystique about them. And I'm fascinated by them. But American women are like dropping a bucket in a well with no water in the bottom. You pull the bucket up and there's chalky dust. Yes, I said it. No depth. No fresh, refreshing water is going to come from them. We're being socially engineered. I don't know who's doing it on a human level, but Satan's behind it all. Satan hates God. Satan hates God's word. Satan hates Jesus Christ. Satan hates Israel. And I'm going to say something to my anti-Semitic viewers. Get off my channel. Get away and go away and block yourself. I have no tolerance for anti-Semitism. You can justify it. You can blame the media as being controlled by the Jews. That's a bunch of crap. American Jews are ignorant that are in high places. We know that. But we're talking about Israel, God's chosen people. And a lot of Jews in Israel are ignorant. They've turned their backs on God, and they have brought upon themselves the current state of hostilities by their very disobedience with Abraham, sleeping with the handmaid, and creating Ishmael. That our sins bear consequences, and Abraham paid dearly for that. He's gone. He didn't need a car, and he didn't depend on oil, but if he were to see what is going on today, he'd go, oh my word, what have I done? But God did choose Israel, and any hatred directed at Israel, all this blame that's put on them for all the hostility in the Middle East is ridiculously untrue. The nation of Israel is surrounded by enemies, and the reason she has so many enemies is because Satan hates the woman. It says it in Revelation. He will persecute her, and he has been persecuting her, and he wants to destroy God's chosen people. Look at what Herod did. He killed all the babies 2 years old and under in an attempt to wipe out the Messiah. You think he wasn't led by the devil? Folks, this is serious stuff. We can talk about feminism and SUVs. These are physical manifestations of a culture that's bleeding and so hellbound. That when an American woman is so superficial that she gets caught up in stuff that has no substance to it whatsoever, just self-serving junk that they buy for themselves, and doesn't see the big spiritual battle of what's going on, women are dumb. That women are being used as pawns by corporate gurus to make more money for themselves. That women flock to people like Joyce Myers and others, and they're being lied to and deceived and taken advantage of to pump their money into their empires. Women are dumb in America. It's rare to find a discerning Christian woman who says, whoa, stop the bus. It is rare to find a Christian woman who shows the true biblical definition of a virtuous woman. Rare, even in frozen chosen Baptists. No such thing. Women are so encumbered with American culture that they fail to see it. That they've become a product themselves, promoting a product that is nothing more than worldly based. They add a few Jesus words to it, go to a good Christian church on Sunday, and nothing in them changes. It's all about their comfort zone, their retirement. Most American women and men do not know the meaning of sacrifice, even in the context of their own marriage. If she has a job, he has a job, and we come together, we eat together, and we all go do our own thing, and they haven't had the fire put to them to really test anything. Jesus Christ is coming. I don't know when. I wish it were right now. I do. I truly mean that with all of my heart. For those of you, by the way, for those of you tuning in, you can log on to my Facebook at Facebook Pacific Ocean Asia. And my name is Pacific Oceania, 2 separate words, capital P, capital O. If you like my channel and you like the beliefs that I espouse on here, you're welcome to my Facebook. I will add you. If you start trolling, you will be blocked immediately. It's not like YouTube. You don't get to show up on Google notifications and keep causing problems. You're bye-bye, and you don't even see my page anymore. I feel it has been successful to let now 61 people come on board, and it's been fun being able to comment, see people's interests, photos, forward links of different things on YouTubes and news articles and what people are doing. Thank you. It's been nice. I don't regret the decision thus far. I will not apologize for my views. I don't want anybody to think I have the balls. It is because of the stuff and the culture I grew up in, because of the parenting that I went through with my mother and father that adopted me. It's because of the collective stuff that I've been through that's finally said, you know what, I can't keep silent anymore. People can get on here and say, you're so negative. I'm not negative. I'm speaking truth, and truth sometimes is going to be not something fun to hear. That's another example, another evidence, another proof and testimony of our Disneyland culture. We want to think positive. Wee, Mickey Mouse. Oh, folks. Sorry. Our Disneyland culture's got a Nightmare on Elm Street side to it, and we need to look at the whole deal. We are being socially engineered. And back to my message to the anti-Semites. Get off my channel and go away. I don't support racism, and I don't support anti-Semitism. No one is better because of their skin color or their ethnicity. A lot of Hispanics think they're more superior than us whites. A lot of blacks think they're more superior than us whites. And even a lot of Asians and a lot of whites think they're more superior to anybody. And I don't tolerate any of that. Pacific is not like that. I talk about dynamics that go on within specific groups, in specific locales, because generalizations can be made. And I make my comments about the Hispanic community in Denver that collectively it sucks. And there's a whole lot more I could say about that. I could fill volumes of videos on my experiences working with Hispanic children and watching what goes on in this city and the mentality. And I'm going to tell you that collectively, they're doing this to the white society. I got a problem with that. You come over to our country, you want to speak Spanglish and Spanish, and you want to change everything to your local cabeza culture. I'm sorry. This is America, and this is my country, too. If you want to peddle your ice cream carts down the middle of the street and blocking traffic, this is not freaking Mexico. And I'm sorry, but you're starting to take over, and you're becoming the majority, and you're showing discrimination. How am I supposed to feel about that? And I'm sorry to say this, but I am starting to believe, based on what I'm watching going on in this secular world, is I can understand why China's keeping their culture Chinese. They're not going to let the Mexicans in. They will never let the Mexicans in, or the blacks, or the whites. You can come as an expat and do business, but you don't get to own property. And maybe America should have done the same thing. Europeans only. As a Christian, it's Jesus Christ who tears down the dividing wall of hostility. That's whether it's Someday Dreamer, or Maharani, or Diane in the UK, or Venus Star in Barbados. That though we come through this channel from all different backgrounds, Jesus Christ is the common denominator. And nobody's superior. In Adam all die, in Christ all live. And those of us that are in Christ, whether you're red or yellow, black or white, you're my brothers and sisters. Praise God. And I welcome you. The secular world is a lie, though. They don't believe for 1 minute that the secular world is promoting unity among diversity. They're not. Go into our break room. The blacks sit with the blacks, the Hispanics sit with the Hispanics, the Spanish sit with the Spanish. I'm going to tell you a story about an old woman whose face is as pale and looks like an evil spirit. I mean, a ghost. She's not pretty. She's not pretty. She holds up her arm, has a sleeveless shirt on, and there's all the skin hanging down, and it's gross. It's like cover it up. I sat down at the table where she sits because I was talking to another driver who is kind to me, who is Hispanic. She comes up and she goes, "Are you lost?" I said, "Lost? Well, you're sitting here." We've had a problem at the break room that if you're sitting at somebody's table and they don't want you there, they don't like it. And they've even said to other drivers, "This is our table." And the boss sat up and said, "Nobody owns the tables." I don't fight that battle. I just got up and left. This woman thinks she's all that in a bag of chips. She walks through there, and I've watched a white man who is older than me pine away for her for years. He sits and talks to her. He told me in the bathroom, he says, "I really like her." I said, "Why?" I said, "She's not even..." "Oh, but I thought she was hot." I said, "But she's not interested in you, man." He goes, "I know that. She won't date outside her race." I said, "And yet you continue to talk to her." I said, "That woman has no interest in you." I watch racism go on right from management, right in our workplace. The way they talk to me, the way they treat me, they don't even look, if they're so professional, they don't look at the fact I've got perfect attendance, keep my bus clean, don't have problems with my routes, I take care of my problems, or when I do have problems, I take care of them and don't involve them. They don't even look at that. It doesn't matter my work ethic. Clearly, their body language and their demeanor towards me is one of discriminatory nature because I'm white. And I'm not the only one who sees that. You can't write letters about this stuff because the deck is stacked against the American white male, and that is very evident. White women in management don't see it. One does. One person that I actually have some respect for, she has her problems. She sees what's going on. But all this does is reiterate women don't belong in the same working space as men. That is my opinion that's becoming stronger and stronger as the years go by. I look at the problems in break rooms. I look at the problems in employers. Women and men do not belong in the same workplace. Men need to have a place to go where they can work and be men. I'm not talking about inappropriate behavior. Even amongst men, men can be jerks. And that's wrong. But I'm talking about something that we all need to pay attention to. We need to start realizing America is never going to come back, ever, to what it once was. But for all those people out there that hate the Jews and blame the Jews and the Arabs that want to get on my channel and tell me that I'm wrong, no, I'm not wrong. To tell me the Holocaust never happened? Ridiculous. The Jews are hated because Satan is behind it. Pacific Ocean Asia holds the view of a pre-tribulational rapture, which is biblical. Mid-trib and post are not biblical. I believe in a 1,000-year millennial reign of Jesus Christ. That is biblical. There are prophecies in the Old Testament that says the lion shall lay down with the lamb. And a kid will put his hand in his serpent's hole and not be bit. Then neither will they harm or destroy on my holy mountain. Who's going to populate that millennium? The believers that survive the tribulation will have babies. And for 1,000 years, people aren't going to die. It'd be just like it was pre-flood. Because God is on the throne, physical, there. I believe in a 7-year tribulation that will be started by the signing of the covenant with Israel by the Antichrist. For people in Christian circles today to speculate who the Antichrist is, they cannot know it. It says that wicked one will not be revealed. And I believe that the Bible supports when the Holy Spirit pulls the church out of the earth, that there may be an intervening time between the rapture and the signing of the peace treaty with Israel that's broken in the middle of the 7 years by the Antichrist himself. There could be 20 years. There could be 5 days. We don't know the gap between rapture and the signing. But let me make it clear that we're not going to have a signing of the peace treaty with Israel 5 minutes after the rapture happens. Just something to think about. I need to go make my breakfast. People are going to start getting up and they'll be walking in here and interrupt the continuity of my video. Viewers, thank you for your kindness to me. Thank you for your interest in this channel. Thank you for being interested in deeper thinking. Thank you for seeing through into the heart of what I'm saying and not seeing me as negative and all the stuff that feminized, rebellious, Jezebel spirit type of women want to get on here and say, we discredit them. They are not credible. They've been brainwashed according to a grid system of thinking that is worldly based and ultimately has its roots in the foundations of Satan's rebellion against God. And that's what we need to look at with our government. That's what we need to look at with all these universities and teachings, that they are not based in God's word. The government does not have an agenda to please God. The government has an agenda to please themselves and to get pushed through what they want to get pushed through. And if you notice, with every president and everything that happens, we're losing more and more of our freedoms. And they're taxing us more and more. And they're taking away more and more rights and giving those rights to thugs and criminals and gays and abortionists and feminists and minorities and illegals. And those people in turn are taking those rights and stomping all over those of us that are good citizens of this country. Wake up and smell the coffee. That's the truth. The Bible says, 2 Timothy 3, read it in its entirety. 2 Timothy 3 verse 1, know this, in the last days perilous times shall come. Men shall be lovers of their own selves. Hello. Go out of your driveway today and get in the thick of traffic and tell me you don't see the lovers of self in the way they drive. Look at people's shopping carts when they go through the checkout aisle. Look at all the junk food they got, pop and chips and crap. Look at what people are buying in the mall. Look at how much time women spend in the bathroom mirror. Look at how much time women spend looking at stupid girl magazines, which is nothing of any substance. Look at what people are interested in. We men have our struggles. Yes, we look at things, and we all look at things and struggle with things, and God is trying to mature us, and we know that. But I'm talking about people, immature Christians or unbelievers in general, and look at what they consume their time upon. 99.9% of it is garbage. Our culture is drowning in love of pleasure. And any culture that continues to drown in love of pleasure will get soft. And when they get soft, will be ripe for an attack, a surprise attack by an invading army or nation to say, look at these fat, overstuffed Americans. Let's go in. It doesn't matter if we've got a military that's the best. God could shred that in 24 hours. So, I do believe we're being socially engineered, and I believe that that's ultimately headed up by the devil. The devil doesn't like Israel. devil unlike Jesus Christ. And when he's cast out of heaven during the tribulation, see, none of you are thinking about this, because we don't. He can go back and forth to the presence of God. Check Job chapter 1 and 2 on that, okay? When he's hurled out of heaven once and for all, when the Michael and the angels fight, it's going to get ugly, because then he's going to come down to earth and he's going to be PO'd, and he's going to make war with the saints and with the beloved woman, God's chosen people, Israel. Satan tried to strike at the heel of Christ. That was prophesied in Genesis 3. When the curse came down, he had a message for the serpent, the woman, and the man. You will strike at his heel, but he will crush your head. Jesus Christ crushed Satan at the cross. But Satan still fight, and he's still going to do what he does. And his goal is not to attack those that are his. His goal is to attack those of us that are his, God's. So the war is on. You're enlisted whether you like it or not if you're a Christian, and stop being a wussy. Recognize it. Man up, woman up. Get on your knees and pray and ask God for protection and stand up for the truth. This is Pacific signing off. Bye-bye.